order. We're directing the committee secretary to acknowledge our resource persons for today.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning to our resource persons. For the second public hearing on the proposed Senate Resolution number 925 entitled Resolution Directing the Appropriate Senate Committee to Conduct an Inquiry in Aid of Legislation to discuss and assess the implementation of Republic Act number 8545 entitled Expanded Government Assistance to Students and Teachers in Private Education Act or EGASPE as amended for the purpose of crafting complementary or amendatory legislation by Senator Win Gatchalian. From the Department of Education, we have Attorney Tara C. Rama, Director 3 of the Government Assistance and Subsidies Office, Mr. Martin Española Jr., Consultant of GASO, Director Maria Gemma Ledesma, Director of the Private Education Office, Mr. Ariel Tandingan from the Education Management Information System Division or EMISD, and Mr. Julius Briones of the EMISD. From the Private Education Assistance Committee, or PAYAC, we have Mr. Roderick Edsel B. Malonzo, Monitoring and Processing Officer, and Attorney Courtney Allison Tirol, Legal Counsel. From the Ministry of Basic, Higher, and Technical Education in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, or MBHTE BARM, we have Director Johnny Balawag from the Bureau of Basic Education. From the Commission on Audit, or COA, we have Ms. Imelda Celso, Supervising Auditor of the Education and Employment National Government Audit Sector, Ms. Regan Voloso, Audit Team Leader from the Cluster 5, Ms. Giselle Levy Trinidad, OIC Audit Team Leader from Cluster 5, Ms. Ruby Caballes, State Auditor 5 from the Performance Audit Office, and Mr. Erwin Liave, State Auditor from the Performance Audit Office as well. From the Commission on Higher Education, we have Ms. Yvonne De Vera, Senior Education Program Specialist from the Office of Student Development Services, or OSDS, and Ms. Patricia Tudok, from the OSDS as well. From the Second Congressional Commission on Education, or EDCOM-2, we have the Chief Legal Officer, Attorney Joseph Noel Estrada. From the Coordinating Council of Private Educational Associations, or COCAPEA, we have Sister Felicitas Bernardo, SPC, Directress of St. Paul Pasig, Basic Education Consultant of SEAP, and former Chair of the SEAP Basic Education Commission, Attorney John Jacome, COCOPEA Executive Director, and Attorney Christine Carmina Manaog, Legal Counsel. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, ComSec. Once again, thank you very much for joining us in today's hearing. This is the second hearing on, can I see the resolution?
925.
The title. Second hearing on Senate Resolution 925, entitled Resolution Directing the appropriate Senate Committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation to discuss and assess the implementation of Republic Act number 8545, entitled Expanded Government Assistance to Students and Teachers in Private Education Act, or EGASPE, as commonly known, as amended for purpose of crafting complementary or amendatory legislation. So this is the topic. This is the second hearing. Last hearing, we talked about extensively the implementation of the Education Service Contracting, or ESC. In short, we found out that there are allocations that went to non-poor students, contrary to the objectives of the program, which is to prioritize or to give preference to poor students, as well as to decongest public schools. Today, we will focus on the other components of GASPE, which is the voucher program and also the teacher salary subsidy program. So we want to focus on these two programs for today's hearing. I understand that the DepEd also has a presentation to make. I went through the presentations very quickly. I know it's quite extensive, so let's go through it. Let's breeze through it quite quickly. And then we'll also have a presentation from, I think PAYAC also sent their presentation. And then after that, we'll have a presentation from COA. And we requested COA to focus on the voucher program for today and the teacher salary subsidy, because ESC, we already discussed ESC last time. So This presentation should have been presented during the last hearing to give us basic information, some updates, and also challenges that the implementers face. I think the presentation was crafted late already. So we will give DepEd ample time to do their presentation. Again, let's go through it fairly quickly so we can have more time for the Q&A and more time to go deeper into the implementation of the voucher program as well as the TSS, the Teacher Salaries Subsidy. So we call on Attorney Tara Rama to make the presentation, and then later on we'll request PAYAC to do their presentation as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the opportunity to share the DepEd's updates. This is in addition to the updates that we provided in the first hearing. So we just have 15 slides, so I'll just breeze through this, Mr. Chair. So first, in the targeting of underprivileged learners, we adopted in our revised guidelines the one that was submitted in the House Bill version for the substitute bill for e-GASPE in Section 4A, which is for the criteria for students, the voucher assistance shall be given to students enrolled in the private basic education schools and prioritizes those who are most vulnerable and underprivileged, or those belonging to the bottom first to the fifth income deciles as determined by the Philippine Statistics Authority. The priority students shall receive a higher voucher amount as determined by the State Assistance Council. We incorporated that in our draft revised guidelines. Number two, Mr. Chair, the Government Assistance and Subsidy Service met with the DSWD, the representatives of the DSWD last January 26, 2024, and we discussed also the possibilities of accessing the Listahanan 3 database. Based from that discussion, DSWD required the DepEd to have to set up both the software and the hardware to access their database. We plan that to come up with that hardware and software in May 2024. Next, still in the targeting of underprivileged learners, the GAS is currently collaborating with the Asian Development Bank and the Philippine Institute for Development Studies on research to recalibrate the targeting parameters for identifying underprivileged beneficiaries. We coordinated with the ADB, and hopefully they will finish their studies in June 2024. As to the PIDs, we still have to meet with them. So either June or July. Okay. Next would be DepEd to come up with the form or the tool and indicators to determine the income classification of the family of beneficiaries. This is in coordination with PSA. We plan to coordinate with them and have the tool drafted by June 2024. GAS also met with the Student First Coalition to discuss potential collaboration on research aimed at recalibrating parameters for targeting the underprivileged and increasing subsidy amounts. Hopefully, the SFC will be able to help us and have that study by July 2024. For the issuance of the revised guidelines, we will incorporate all that was provided for the updates for numbers 1 to 5. Hopefully, we will have the revised guidelines by October 2024. Next would be for the GASPE refunds recommended by COA. We have a status report from PAYAC that the total refund as of February 28, 2024 amounted to 273 out of the 485,000 for the ESC program and 1.4 million for the SHSVP out of the 1.2. So mas tumaas pala ta, sir. And for the posting of the names of the GASPE beneficiaries online, we actually coordinated with the National Privacy Commission regarding the legality of the posting of the names online. Hopefully, we send that out. Hopefully, we will receive their updates by next month. Next would be as to the ideas to improve the transparency on the implementation of the subsidy or voucher programs. We intend to collaborate with civil society organizations in order to improve transparency in GASPE. And we will start coordinating with these CSOs by May 2024. Next would be, I would just like to share with you the top 5 regions with highest public classroom shortages. So these top 5 regions, which has the highest number of classroom shortages from kinder to grade 12 levels, we can see here, it's Region 4A, NCR, BARM, Region 3, and Region 7. So the classroom shortages are determined from existing classrooms with more than one shift. As to the next slide, we have the mapping of junior high school classroom congestions. So in your left side, this shows the top 5 regions with highest number classroom learner ratio, which is above the 1:36 junior high school. And still we see here that Region 7, Region 4A, 3, 6, and 5 have the highest. And on the right side, we have here the top 5 regions with highest number of GASPE junior high school participating private schools. So we can see here the same Region 4A, 3, NCR, 7, and 6. We go to the slide 11. So for slide 11, this is the mapping of senior high school classroom congestion. For the top 5 regions, we have top 5 regions with highest number classroom learner ratio. We have Region 7, 5, 3, 6, and 4A. On the right side, this shows the top 5 regions with highest number of GASPE senior high school participating private school. We still have Region 4A, 3, NCR, 7, and 6. So what we can deduce from this graph is that all those regions who have the highest number of classroom learner ratio, which is above the 1:36 ratio, is also the same regions who have the highest number of participating senior high school and even the junior high school voucher programs. So we go to the last slide, slide 14. For the recommendation as to what will be our amendments in the law in 8545, we have submitted the version of the substitute bill on e-GASPE in the lower house. This was submitted to the Senate Committee on Basic Education on March 12, 2024. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Attorney Ram. I understand you also have one more presentation.
Yes, Mr. Chair, but we can have it in the senior high school voucher since we will be.
We can have those basic information out so that later on we'll have, everyone will be on the same page and we can have a fruitful discussion.
Correct po. So we will just have to go to.
We discussed ESE last time, so we can focus on the voucher program.
Yes. We can go directly to slide 11. As a background, Mr. Chair, the Senior High School Voucher Program, or SHSVP, is a program of financial assistance wherein subsidies through vouchers are provided to qualified senior high school grades 11 to 12 learners in participating private senior high schools. So we have here the voucher program beneficiary categories, category A to F. So category A is for grade 10 completers from the preceding school year in public schools. Category B, grade 10 completers from preceding senior high schools in private schools who are already ESE grantees. For category A and B, they are automatically qualified learners. For category C, grade 10 completers from preceding senior school year in private schools who are not ESE grantees. Category D, we have grade 10 completers who completed grade 10 prior to the previous school years but not earlier than 2016 and had not previously enrolled for grade 11. For Category E, these are the learners who passed the ALS A&E test for grade 10 and or ALS who passed the portfolio assessment for grade 10. Category F, these are the learners who passed PEPT for grade 10 or learners who will take the PEPT for grade 10 in the upcoming school year. For categories C, D, E, and F, they are voucher applicants, so they are not automatic qualified learners, so they have to go through the voucher management system to apply for the vouchers. Next slide. We have here the amount per grant. So the voucher amount depends on the location of the participating senior high school. So we have here the categories: National Capital Region, the qualified voucher recipients category, A, E, and F, they will have a voucher amount of 22,500. For category B, C, and D, it's 18,000. For highly urbanized cities outside of NCR, category A, E, and F will get 20,000 voucher amount. Category B, C, and D, 16,000. For all other locations, that's for category A, E, and F, 17,500. And for category B, C, and D, that's 14,000. Just a breeze through the billing process flow. We receive the billing statements from the schools, then goes to the PAYAC Regional Secretariat and our DepEd regional offices, after which it will be endorsed to the committee, which is PAYAC National Secretariat. And then after that, it will go through the Department of Education for validation and then payment. Next slide, please. For the schools and beneficiaries of the voucher program over the years, we can see here we started in 2016 to 2017 school year 2016-2017 with 645,928 grantees. That's at 5 billion. We can see a steady increase and decrease, but just a difference of 100,000 beneficiaries over the span of 6 years. So right now, for 2023-2024, we have 1.2 million grantees with a financial implication of 22.3 billion. That's it for my presentation for the senior high school voucher program, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Since PAYAC is your partner and your service provider, we'll hear the PAYAC presentation so that it will be in sync, and then later on we'll go to COA. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning to everyone. We're here to present to you the data that was requested for PAC for the Senate hearing today. But before I present the data, I'd like to update the committee and the chair on the status of the request for data on attrition for the ESC program that was requested in the previous hearing. Based on our data for school year 2022-2023, in the ESC program, almost 10% dropped out from the ESC program. When we say dropout, these are grantees that did not finish the school year and instead really stopped studying during the school year. For leavers, these are grantees that completed the school year, the grade level, but did not re-enroll in a public or a private school. The data is at 15%. For those grantees transferring from one private school, from an ESC participating school to another private school, it's at 30%. For grantees that transfer from a private ESE participating school to a public junior high school, it's at 44.7%. And for those that did not, that we don't have a status based on the report, it's 0.33%. So the overall attrition for, if compared to those billed ESE grantees in 22-23, it's 4.7%. So the program lost around 43,626 ESE grantees in school year 22-23. So that's it for the update on the attrition for the ESE program. But we're here to present right now the data for the voucher program. Can we show the slides, please? So we were tasked to present data on, next slide, please. Data on VPBs by category, the same categories that were presented a while ago by Attorney Tara. For category A, over a 5-year total, category A are public grade 10 completers. So we have 64.2% of our total VPBs for in school year 2019-2021 until 2023-2024 came from public. 30.75% are ESE grantees. 4.2% came from private non-ESE. For ALS and PEPT qualifiers, that's 0.78%. And from those graduating in the previous school years or completers from the previous school year, 0.06%. For VPBs by, sorry, can you go back to the previous slide, please? Hindi ko mabasa. The correct data pala, sorry, 64.21% came from public, 30.75% ESE grantees, 4.2% private non-ESE, 0.78 ALS PEPT, and 0.06 applicants from the previous school years, completers. Okay, next slide, please. For every school year, no, the next slide presents the data for every school year. So as you see, majority of our VPBs for all grade levels come from public junior high schools since 2019-2020 until 2022-2023. If you also notice in the graph presented, we don't have any voucher program beneficiaries from previous school year completers in school year 2019-2020 and 2020-2021 because this was only introduced in the implementing guidelines in school year 2021-2022. However, despite the introduction of accepting applicants from previous school years, we only have a few participating in the voucher program. Next slide, please. The next slides are the categories by grade level, so there is no change. Public still in grade 11, it's still public. That majority of our VPBs come from public junior high schools. Next slide, please. Same with grade 12, because these are just carryover from the previous school years. Grade 11 VPBs. So again, public is the majority of our VPBs in grade 12. Next slide, please. Since we're no longer discussing the ESE program, can we move to the next slide? Next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah. So for the voucher program beneficiaries by region, majority of our VPBs come from the National Capital Region. This is data for school year 2022-2023, followed by Region 4 at 260,000, and then Region 3. The region with the least number of VPBs is Cordillera Administrative Region at 22,377. Next slide, please. So for number of participating senior high schools by region, Region 4 has the most number of voucher participating senior high schools at 855, followed by NCR 612, and then Region 3 601. In terms of numbers of schools, the least is in Region 13. We have 84 voucher program participating senior high schools in Region 13, school year 2022-2023 as well. And my last slide is on the amounts. Next slide, please. Sorry. Yeah, that's amounts. For amounts, the highest in terms of voucher amounts is in NCR, in the National Capital Region, at 6 billion. They have the highest share, followed by Region 4, 4.2, and then Region 3, 3 billion. The smallest in terms of voucher amounts is is Mimaropa at 357 million. Now, the huge discrepancy in the amounts between NCR and Region 4 may be attributed to the higher voucher amounts in the National Capital Region. So in NCR, if the VPB is a public return completer, the VPB gets 22,500 pesos. And in other regions, it's 17,500 pesos. And if the school is located in HUC, it's 20,000 pesos. So that's the reason why NCR has, if you notice, has a really big share in the amount of vouchers by region. That's it for the presentation of PAC. Thank you and good morning.
Thank you, thank you. And then we move on to COA. I think COA also prepared the presentation. And well, I thank COA again for making this presentation, and it's quite extensive. I went through it when it was given to me. However, let's focus on the senior high school category, and then we can drill down on the issues that you have discovered during the course of your performance audit.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. So I think we're just going to proceed to the audit observations raised in 2016 and 2018. Next slide, please. Audit observations. Yes. Next slide, please. Okay. For CY 2016 CAR, or the Consolidated Annual Audit Report, this observation was reported. The public secondary schools' unreadiness to accommodate the expected number of senior high school entrants that necessitated the utilization of private secondary schools' facilities resources to accommodate the projected 1,445,107 enrollees nationwide, ensure the latter, which means the private secondary school, a guaranteed revenue, as 90% of their senior high school enrollees are SHSVP grantees. On the part of DepEd, it incurred an additional expenses of 33 million due to the corresponding increase in the administration cost to pay the PEAC or FAPE. So the recommendations are the following. Next slide, please. We have another findings. Further, the student's financial capacity was not considered to qualify for the SHSVP, and likewise as a recipient of other scholarship programs. To conform with the provisions of Section 22 of RA number 10533. Thus, students enrolled in prestigious, high-paying private schools, universities who are financially capable were also SHSVP grantees. Moreover, DepEd did not closely monitor and supervise the implementation of the GASP program to ensure the wise utilization of the funds and the effectiveness of the program to address any deficiencies noted in the period of implementation. We would just like to emphasize that these observations were raised in 2016 at the inception of the senior high school voucher program. So it is expected that DepEd has issue on their absorptive capacity. So our recommendations were, next slide please. Ensure public secondary schools' readiness to implement the senior high school program by closely monitoring and timely addressing issues, deficiencies encountered so as not to rely on the capability and resources of private, non-DepEd schools, and therefore funds set aside to support this institution could be allocated to sustain and enhance the basic education services in public schools. Letter B, provide concrete guidelines in assessing the financial capacity of the grantees in conformance with Section 22 of RA number 10533 and impose reasonable limitations in the availment of financial grant. Next slide, please. Letter C. Determine reasonableness and propriety of covering those students that are enrolled in the prestigious high-paying schools, universities, and those who are covered with other scholarship programs of the schools, universities. Letter D, consider the process that the financial capacity of the junior high school grantees be assessed before enrollment to senior high school and not just for the initial or one-time assessment. And last, letter E, establish a strategy to validate, previous slide please, establish strategy to validate and monitor compliance to rules and procedures of the program to assess PEAC FAPE performance at least annually. As to the status of the implementation, recommendations letter A to D are considered fully implemented as reported in the CAR of 2020. While recommendation letter E is also considered fully implemented, although we have noted here that pending the creation of a full-time unit that will manage the program, an interim program or project management office for GASPE at the central office was created per DepEd Order Number 16, Series of 2016. The interim GASPE PMP coordinates with and performs monitoring and oversight functions on PAYAC. Proposal for the creation of the GASPE PMS was already submitted to the DBM. Okay, so that is for the observation number, which was issued in 2016. Okay, for the next observation, which was included in the 2018 CAR or the Consolidated Annual Audit Report, an initial of 115 senior high school VP beneficiaries from school years 2016 and 2017 and 2017 to 2018 were considered ghost students since they were billed by the senior high school voucher program participating schools more than once in the same school year, resulting to the excessive or overpayment of $1,247,200 by the Department of Education for the period due to data errors noted in audit. In addition, the amount of $1,200,500 paid by the DepEd Accounting Division to an senior high school VP participating school supposedly intended for 143 qualified voucher recipients is doubtful because the billing statement package submitted did not show the details of the senior high school student information, contrary to DepEd Order Number 66 and 19 dated October 28, 2016 and April 20, 2017 respectively. Okay, next slide please. We have the following recommendation. require the identified senior high school VP participating schools to refund the excessive payments made to them in the total amount of 1,247,200, representing the 115 senior high school voucher program beneficiaries within 10 days, that is in 2018, from receipt of the audit observation memorandum, copy furnished the COA of refunds documentation. I would like to inform everyone that only this recommendation is not fully implemented as of date, unless we receive an updated report from the DepEd. For letter B, require the My Messiah School Cavite Incorporated to explain how they were able to create the billing statement, since no list of VPBs is accessible in the senior high school voucher management system. Also, prove existence of the 143 billed senior high school VPBs, otherwise refund the entire amount of 1,200,500 to DepEd. This is considered as fully implemented because the school had refunded the amount already. And letter C, require, conduct further investigation on the lapses committed by the identified senior high school VP participating schools regarding the inclusion of the 115 ghost students and 143 unnamed senior high school students in the list of billed senior high school VPBs paid by the department. If warranted, enforce the appropriate sanctions on them in compliance with DepEd Order Number 66 and 19 dated October 28, 2016 and April 20, 2017 respectively. Letter D, strengthen the monitoring of the senior high school voucher program participating schools and verification of the senior high school VPBs listed in the school's billing statements. And letter E, provide COA a copy of the monitoring compliance report submitted by the PEAC, including their findings on the senior high school voucher program participating schools, that include, among others, the complete details and information of the refunds made by the schools to the DepEd, and ensure that DepEd's claim, that schools' claims are duly validated both by PEAC and DepEd, and see to it that they conform with the existing implementing guidelines and related regulations before payment is made. Okay, so that is all, Mr. Chair. This, as I already mentioned that only one recommendation is not implemented, that is letter A, because 39 out of 60 schools had refunded the amount of 1,063,500 out of the 1.2 million pesos. The rest had been considered as fully implemented. So I believe that the audit teams were not able to continue the audit of the program because of the issue that, the department secretary then had requested the COA to perform a special audit, which is which was conducted by the Performance Audit Office of the COA. So stop po yung pag-audit namin on a regular basis. Moving forward, we included in the 2023 audit instructions that the audit of the same will be conducted already without, regardless of whether PAYAC or PAAC is subject to audit. We are going to proceed with the regular audit po. But from CY 2019 until CY 2022, I think we're going, as included in the position paper submitted by the Commission on Audit, we're going to request for a special audit because of our limited manpower resources. So a special audit shall be conducted, hopefully by another team coming also from the COA, but not by us because of the limited manpower capacity of our audit group. That's all, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. I also saw in your presentation that you have, I think this is on PAYAC itself.
Yes, sir.
This is your audit of Private Education Assistance Committee. We can discuss that later on. We'll focus first on this voucher program. We actually talked about PAYAC as an entity last time, no? And we had some recommendations to DepEd on how to move forward with that, especially on the issue of, number one, transparency. It's important that transparency is being practiced by the service provider, especially on the inset allocation. And then number two, efficiency. Since no bidding was conducted in the past, we have to demonstrate, or PAYAC needs, or DepEd and PAYAC needs to demonstrate that contracting a service provider is much more efficient than DepEd doing it by themselves. I'm a firm believer that the private does it best. No? That's my principle. But we need to demonstrate that. It's not absolute. It's not absolute that the private sector can do services much better than government. We need to demonstrate that. And number three is cost. No? We are allocating close to about 100 million pesos to PAYAC. We also need to be enlightened whether that 100 million pesos is more, is lacking, it's sufficient in terms of providing services to DepEd. No? So those three items should be scrutinized and looked at very carefully. I know there's also a debate on what animal is PAYAC. No? I think that's an ongoing debate. But in my opinion, at least personally, I would rather see those three items justified by DepEd and also PAYAC: the cost, the efficiency, and transparency. And in due fairness to PAYAC, they I saw in the materials that they contracted an external audit firm, no? Isla Lepana, PwC, was contracted to audit the books of PAYAC. The question is, did that was the output of that audit, or the report of that audit, was it given to DepEd and also to COA to scrutinize? No? I think Attorney Tara is not agreeing to that. You want to elaborate on that and put that on record? Because what's the use of the Isla Repana audit report if the principal, which is DepEd, is not furnished with that report? And I understand in the MOA, DepEd should be furnished with that report, and in turn should be also given to COA for their analysis. So umiiling ka kanina, let me put that on record. No? Let me reflect that on record that si Attorney Rama was not in agreement, or umiiling siya. But you can elaborate if you agree or don't agree to that statement.
Thank you for that opportunity, Mr. Chair, to clarify yung pag-iling ko po. Actually, ang pag-iling ko po is stating that I do not think that PAYAC or DepEd was able to furnish COA with the report of Isla Lipana. That's yun po yun, Mr. Chair. But I think during the quarterly meeting with PAYAC, as attended by our representative in the PAYAC, no, sa DepEd, they showed that audit, but we were not able to submit it to COA. Yun po yung ibig sabihin
That's
ko po.
what my point, no? Transparency.
That's right, Mr.
But
Chair.
in fairness to PAYAC, we went through the website. I went through the website. It's that audit report is posted in their website, no, for the public to view. So in fairness, there's an effort to practice transparency through the website. But of course, posting it on the website, communicating it or transmitting it to DepEd officially, and then in turn to COA, is a different matter. No? Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, Attorney Tara, it's in your MOA, these reports, no, including the audit report from a private contractor, should be furnished officially to DepEd and in turn to COA. Because that's the issue right now, transparency. And of course, there's an issue now of why a bidding is not or was not conducted in the past. No? And then we go into the debate on what is PAYAC? Is it a private entity, a government entity? And we go on to that. But in the absence of a ruling on what type of entity PAYAC is, there's nothing that can bar us to practice transparency, no? Especially on those three items: cost, efficiency, and the actual transparency. So I urge DepEd to look at that and to justify to us, to the committee later on, those three items, especially when we tackle the budget of DepEd. No? This program is not a small program. It's a 40 billion peso program a year, no? Managed by, jointly managed by DepEd and PAYAC. And last hearing, we demonstrated that there are what I call leakages, meaning non-poor, that are benefiting from the ESC to the amount of 7 billion in our estimate. So today we'll drill down on the voucher program because we also see some what I call leakages in the voucher program. But I'll go through the presentation, Attorney Tara, your presentation. I'll go through it. You mentioned that one of the corrective measures that you made is to include vulnerable and underprivileged as one of the criteria in the selection of students. But I understand this is insofar as the proposed law is concerned, correct? Tama ba?
That's right, Mr. Chair.
And, but laws take time. The average turnaround time of crafting and passing a law is about 1.5 years. No? So it'll take time. But we're already spending money and allocating money for this program. So we cannot wait for the law to be enacted. So my recommendation is to already tweak the department orders, because the department orders is much faster in terms of issuing and promulgation. So what is the timetable to, because the intention is there,
Yes,
diba? Andyan na
yes.
yung intention. I think there's no debate on the intention. But when do we see department order to that effect? No?
Okay, Mr. Chair, thank you. Actually, you are right, Mr. Chair, that the law takes time. That's why what we did is we already incorporated this criteria for students in the revised guidelines. And as presented earlier, Mr. Chair, we will be able to come up with the revised guidelines in our timeline is in October, since we also have to incorporate all other studies that will be conducted by Asian Development Bank and the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, as well as the one that was the potential research that will be presented by Student First Coalition, which is in June or July. So we also want the private schools to review the guidelines that we will be issuing, getting all their inputs as well, after we already incorporate all of these items, Mr. Chair, in the guidelines.
And the guidelines will contain what basic concept? What are the basic concepts that will be included in the guidelines?
Well, number one, Mr. Chair, the basic concepts will be the ones that we already discussed here, the congestion and also the underprivileged learners. We also will have a more concrete penalty when it comes to those schools who are committing any violations with regard to the voucher. And we also set there the procedures on how they will be penalized and investigated, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that, because those are very essential and fundamental concepts that we need to include in the new guidelines. Funds are very limited, as you know that.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
I remember during the budget hearing of DepEd is requesting 400 billion pesos just to catch up with classrooms and repair dilapidated classrooms. But in a year, we only allocate close, on the average, about 20 to 30 billion. And on top of that, for the feeding program, we're only allocating close to about 1.5 to 3 billion a year, no, on the feeding program. And close to about 20% of our students are malnourished, no? Either stunted, underweight, or others. No? So in other words, there's really a tug of war when it comes to allocation of funds. And you know that, no? In DepEd. Even though DepEd gets the biggest share in terms of budget, but if you go granular, it's not enough. No, it's not enough. And we need to prioritize important programs within DepEd and also outside of DepEd, especially targeting the underprivileged and our poor students. And one of the things, or one of the very essential objectives of this program is to make sure that we prioritize the underprivileged and our poor students. No? To me, irrelevant where they come from, whether private or public, but it's important they are targeted and prioritized first. No? That's the most important. And at the same time, we solve a problem. No? Congestion is a problem. No? And I'll show that later on. And let's use this program to alleviate congestion in some parts of our country, especially in Metro Manila. So those two items should be very pronounced, and the mechanism should be very clear on how to address congestion in particular areas, as well as prioritizing the poor. And I want to go into a slide of yours, this one, mapping of senior high school classroom congestion. From what I understand in your slide, let me just flash it. The top 5 regions with highest number of classroom to learner ratio is Region 7, Region 5, Region 3, Region 6, Region 4A. I would assume these are, for simplicity's sake, these are the congested areas or the congested regions. Another slide.
I think slide 11.
10, slide 10.
Ay, slide 10.
Yan. No, not that. Isa pa. Forward pa, forward. Yeah, this one. But the top 5 regions with the highest number of GASPE, balik, is Region 4A, Region 3, Region NCR, Region 7, and Region 6. Even though more or less it's the same, but the allocations are different.
Yes.
So in a perfect setting, the congestion should also be in line with the allocation, correct? I mean, tama sila, no? It's
In an ideal, yes,
it's the same regions with congestion and allocation, but the allocation should reflect, the amount of allocation should reflect the congestion in that particular area. Tama?
That's right po, Mr. Chair.
So in other words, there's also a problem in terms of detecting which areas are congested. And that's also in line with COA's report that there is no methodology or there is no mechanism that is being used to allocate, to determine congestion and to allocate the number of GASPE beneficiaries. Tama ba, Attorney Tara? There's no mechanism whatsoever to date. I also went through the DO, walang mechanism to say, oh, ito congested, mas marami dito. Let's say Valenzuela, congested dito, mas marami dito. Quezon City, congested dito, mas marami dito. There's no, is there a formula being used by DepEd
None, Mr. Chair, for now. So we will also be addressing that in our revised guidelines. But actually, Mr. Chair, let me also clarify. For example po, no, nakita natin dito sa slide na ito na NCR is one of those top 5 regions with highest number GASPES senior high school participating private schools. Whereas po dito sa other side po, no, wala po siya dyan. Ang nangyari po kasi, Mr. Chair, if I'm, with our planning, no, it's because NCR is also implementing yung shifting. So, baka, yun nga po yung naisip ko din na baka hindi po sila nalagay dito sa top 5 regions with highest number classroom learner ratio because they've already ginagawa nila yung shifting. But yes, Mr. Chair, to answer your question, we do not have a formula or mechanism as to targeting really the congestion part. Now, we also wanted to update this committee that what we will be doing as well will be mapping out our public and the private schools. So we will have the plan of geotagging it po para to understand and to know and to specify talaga the schools which are congested, and then to also identify the private schools surrounding the congested na schools so that we will know dito po sila dapat papasok. So yun po, Mr. Chair.
We also did our own research, no, to determine to go much more granular, and we use the concept of aisle learners. No, in simple terms, those students are literally on the aisle, no, are considered, or that classroom or that school is considered congested, no. But the count is per aisle learner. And I'll show you a slide, slide 28. And we found out that there are about 542,000 aisle learners. For senior high school lang to, for senior high school. And the most number of aisle learner is in Region 4A, Region 7, NCR, more or less the same as your slide, no? But this is in terms of number of students. So, based on our own research, 542,000 are considered aisle learners, or 20% of the total senior high school learners are considered aisle learners, meaning these learners are in classrooms more than the prescribed 40 student per classroom, or 41 student per classroom ratio. But we also saw, no, how many, let me ask you, how many students are beneficiaries of the senior high school program, senior high school voucher program right now? How many are?
For school year 2023-2024, Mr. Chair, it's around 1.2 million grantees for the senior high school voucher program.
Yeah. Can you show the slide earlier? So, in other words, can you show the slide in kanina? 28. Slide 28. Slide 28, yan. In iLearners is a concept that DepEd also uses, diba? So, there are 542,000 iLearners, but there are about 1.2 million beneficiaries, senior high school voucher program beneficiaries. So, in other words, if that 1.2 million targeted the 542, we won't have any iLearners anymore. Wala na tayong congestion. Because the iLearners is less than the number of beneficiaries. So in other words, there are twice as many beneficiaries that we have given that are not in congested schools. So the simple analysis there is, kung yung 542, na-cover na ng 1.2, wala na itong slide na ito. We don't have any more I-learners. Because theoretically, those 1.2 should be in congested schools. But obviously, they're not. The reason why we are still having I-learners in congested schools, because those 1.2 million are not in congested areas. Do you get my point, Attorney Rama? Because there's no
Yes.
mechanism. Wala nga tayong mechanism to determine what are the congested schools. There's no mechanism also to target the beneficiaries in congested areas. No? There's no mechanism to that. So, in other words, the voucher program are being given without considering congested areas. Tama? Hence, even though we have 1.2 million beneficiaries, it's not targeting the 542 I-learners. Malayo siya. Malayo siya. Dapat nabura na natin to because there are more. There are more. So that's a for me it's another wastage, no? Because instead of solving a problem of congestion, we're not solving it. No? We're randomly giving the voucher program to students. That's why it's important, it's imperative that we have that mechanism of identifying congested areas and then allocating vouchers to those congested areas. That's important yan. Sayang yung pera eh. Nasasayang yung pera natin. Go ahead. You want to
Yes,
to
with
join
the permission
in,
of the
Mr.
Chair. With regards
Alonso?
to the voucher program kasi, these are vouchers that are automatically available to public grade 10 completers and private ESE grantees. So they enroll in whichever school that they'd like to enroll in. This is really a choice of the grantee, of the VPB, where they bring the vouchers. Now, the difference with the ESE program, on the other hand, is that in the ESE kasi, these are slot allocations to the schools, which can easily be distributed based on the IEL data coming from DepEd. So I think yung vouchers kasi talaga sa bata, hindi nadala nila kung saan nila gusto dalhin yung vouchers na yan. So it's really hard for us to allocate vouchers for certain areas based on IEL.
I know that. I know that. That's why for me, we're wasting money because we have a problem with congested classroom. But we're giving money to areas where there are no congested classrooms and also to students to choose where to go, particularly to areas that are not congested. No? So we're not fixing a problem. In fact, that's why I asked the Attorney Tara earlier or last hearing, what's the objective? And I heard earlier, part of the amendments will be identifying congestion and also the poor constituents or poor learners. So you have to be in line with that objective. I know that is the mechanism right now, but it's not fitting the objective. That's my point. That's my point. So we're not solving a problem. We're not solving a problem. And then I'll go to one of the most important highlights in the COA report, which is, in fact, dito nga mayroon pang sinabi ng COA, they use the term prestigious high-paying schools/universities. So meaning students, tama ba, Ma'am Celso, Ma'am Imelda? No, students, we're giving voucher programs to students who come from prestigious high-paying schools and universities.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So there's an issue of equity in this program. And can you, I wrote in my notes, can you elaborate or cite an example of, from your findings, that you've detected students coming from prestigious high-paying schools/universities? Just cite a few examples, one or two examples. Ano yung na-detect nyo in your audit audit program?
Ah, okay, actually, the audit team then identified top 21 schools. But for an example, we have here the University of Santo Tomas High School and then the University of the East as two examples, sir.
So in your example, you've detected that students coming from UST and
University of the
you-
East, Our Lady of Fatima,
receive voucher program.
yes, sir.
And I would assume these are they ESC or non-ESC? These are private schools, eh?
Yes, sir.
Are they ESC recipients already or non-ESC?
These are not determined in the audit observations.
Because yung ESC is automatic, di ba?
Yes.
Yung non-ESC, you have to apply. Correct. So let's go through this one by one. Doon sa mga, assuming they are non-ESC, so they have to apply. And it goes through the process. I saw the process here. No? It goes through the process of it goes to PAYAC first, tama ba?
Yes, Senator.
And then it goes to DepEd. Okay. But in the criteria, do you look at the income status of the applicant? Is there a requirement that do you look at the income status? And is there a requirement that that poor students should be prioritized first?
Sige. In the senior high school voucher programs, Senator Win, yes, we do, Mr. Chair. Those categories who are not automatic grantees, no, are asked to apply via the voucher management system, and they have to upload an affidavit wherein they will have to state the income of their family. And that's what PAYAC evaluates. Actually.
And, do we prioritize the poor students who apply? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes,
Mr.
for
Rodrigue.
prioritization, we rank the students, the applicants, based on their income level. So if you're in the low income levels, then you're on the top of the list. So if, for example, we have 50,000 applicants and you're the least when it comes to your socioeconomic status, then you get rank higher.
For the last school year, how many applied through the system? We'll do the non-ESC muna, because yung ESC automatic na yun eh. And then we remember during the hearing we found out that there's no criteria for prioritizing the poor. No? So the very last school year 2023-2024, how many applied?
Yep, based on the data from DepEd also, it's 40,000 applicants in school year
14,000 applicants.
2023-2024.
2023, 2020, 14,000.
40.
Ah, 40,000.
Around 40,000 po.
Okay. And then what is the cutoff to determine who are poor learners? How do you determine who are, what is the cutoff? Kasi halo-halo na yan, di ba? There are non-poor, there are poor learners who apply out of the 40,000, di ba? So what is the cutoff to be considered
For
a
the
poor
income,
learner? For the
Mr.
income.
Chair,
Yeah.
okay.
Or do you use other methodology other than income, or do you use other criteria other than income to determine if the learner applicant is poor or not?
Mr. Chair, the DepEd, based on the budget allocation, we cut off the number of beneficiaries at 40,000. So when PAYAC evaluates, Mr. Chair, they check on the income and also the completeness of the documentary requirements, because we also have the affidavit. So we have to check that one. So if ever kompleto po yung na-upload nila sa VMS, and then they also pasok po sila dun sa income, the income bracket would be, I'm not sure with the income bracket. No income bracket
No, but
naman.
what do you, for example, what do you consider, in your, based on your criteria, what do you consider a poor learner? What should be the family income? What is the family income threshold based on your criteria? If you rank lang from the lowest to the highest, it doesn't mean the lowest is poor. Diba? It doesn't mean the lower. Kasi ano siya eh, the third category is private non-ESC, tama? So nasa private school na siya. So high probability na hindi poor yung applicant. Correct? But high probability, baka, pero but meron. Diba? So I want to know how do you, what is the threshold based on your internal memos or department orders? What is considered poor? You
Mr.
rank kasi
Chair.
according to income, but not necessarily na I know what you're saying. Unahin na muna namin the lowest income. Pero kung yung lowest income, ang combined family income is 50,000, that's not poor. No? Because the threshold is 15,000. Diba? So,
Okay. Mr. Chair, in the guidelines that we have right now, we have not identified really the cutoff for the income, the household, which we can say that it's really poor. So, yun po.
that's why there's no income threshold to determine who are the poor applicants. No? And that's why if the applicant is from a private school, non-ESC, they are ranked according to their, I guess, lowest to highest income, but not necessarily poor constituent. And that's another problem. Even our internal documents don't reflect, your department orders don't reflect prioritizing the poor or determining who are poor applicants. And that's another problem of equity. That's why we have those audit findings that applicants are coming from, yun na nga, no, prestigious and prestigious high-paying schools / universities. They can also come from private schools that are ESC grantees, who are ESC grantees already. And then, but we also found out during the past hearing, during the last hearing, that the ESC, you can also get ESC while you are already in school, tama? You're already enrolled. Enrolled ka na, you can apply for ESC.
That is during the pandemic po, Mr. Chair.
Is it
Yung-
allowed right now?
That is only for until 2023, 2024, and the rest of the years, school years po, hindi na po pwede.
Yeah, but that
Mr. Chair.
covers the school year, correct?
Yes po.
So
Yes
in
po.
other words, I'm already inside the private school. I can apply for ESC. I'll get that subsidy. And then when I graduate junior high school to go to senior high school, I'm already eligible for the voucher program. Diba? So non-poor, nakakuha na siya ng ESC subsidy. Pagtawid niya ng junior high school, nakakuha pa siya ng voucher subsidy. Correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair. But regarding that, during the pandemic, I think one of the guidelines is also to prioritize still the income. However, we did not set the amount.
Yeah, but prioritizing the income without the amount is, you're just ranking in order kung sino malaking kita, kung sino may liit na kita. Non-poor sila, pero mas malaki kita niya versus yung isang applicant. We're not targeting, in other words, there's no effort to target the poor. Despite in the law, even in Department Order 20, Series of 2023, nakasurd doon preference is given to the poor, underprivileged, to be exact. Diba? But there's no effort, there's no mechanism to target the poor. Yun ang sinasabi ko.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that is one of the gaps po, which we will be addressing in our new or the revised guidelines, Mr. Chair.
Correct. And we also looked at APs in annual poverty income survey. And the same with senior high school. Where is that? Which one, sir? No, APs. Yeah. No. Because we cannot determine na pag public school ka, poor ka, or non-ESC poor ka, because the best indicator will be your family income. But we don't have that data. So we looked at the PSA survey, and let me just flash 48. This is a survey that PSA conducted, and they asked kasi, kung may anak ka sa junior high school, are you an ESC recipient? Kung may anak ka sa voucher, kung may anak ka sa senior high school, are you a voucher recipient? So they can detect. And you can just call out all the families with combined income of less than 15,000. Lumalabas in school year 2019-2020, 64% of the voucher program comes from non-poor households. And in school year 2021-2022, 70% come from non-poor households. So this is not far from the audit observation of COA. Kasi there's no threshold eh.
That's right, Mr. Chair. That's why we also wanted to include in our guidelines, actually, the coordination with the Philippine Statistics Authority as to how they determine the income of the household, and even the tool or the form that they will be using, we will also be adopting so that we can really target those who are the underprivileged, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. We're subsidizing non-poor students. I call it leakage, no? Because it's important to prioritize the poor. So based on the allocation of the senior high school program, next slide, in 2019, school year 2019-2020, 18 billion was allocated for the senior high school voucher program. If you factor in the non-poor, 7.3 billion went to non-poor. In 2021-2022, the government allocated 13.69 billion, but 7.2 billion went to non-poor. So if you remember last time, almost 7 billion rin for the ESC. So in a year, the leakage is about 14 billion, or sabihin na natin 15 billion out of the 40 billion allocated. So for me, that's a leakage, a wastage, because we're not targeting the poor. To make it worse, we're not also decongesting our schools. And we need to correct this, Attorney Tara, immediately. And I mentioned to you on the sidelines last hearing that I plan to raise this during the budget hearing. Because during the budget hearing, we have to make sure that every centavo allocated and appropriated to government goes to our poor learners and goes to efficient projects and programs. But for me, it's definitely not being efficient and prudent with our allocation. So we need to tweak our department orders. Number one, to address congestion, and number two, to target the poor.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Rest assured that this administration will do exactly that. We just need, of course, the help of all other non-government organizations like ADB and PIDS, no, and to help us with targeting really the non-poor and to help in the congestion part Mr. Chair. Ginagawa naman po natin yung makakaya natin at the soonest possible time to correct po all the, even the gaps in the department orders or in the guidelines, Mr. Chair.
Because but the budget hearing is like I said, no, tug of war yan, agawan talaga ng funds yan, and I would rather divert the 14 billion to our feeding program. No? I know that's very close to the heart of the Vice President and to many senators as well. And the allocation this year is about 3 billion. I don't. The allocation system-wide is about 11 billion. But we're talking about 20% of our learners. No? So if we can divert that to our feeding program to make it universal, meaning feed all kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, so that wala tayong summer slide. Alam niyo yung summer slide, di ba? When pag nagsa-summer na, if we feed them, but during the summer we don't feed them, they regress. Their health and their nutrition regress. So it's better just to feed them all year round, no? Using those funds. So we need to correct this. And I don't agree, as a taxpayer, I don't agree subsidizing the non-poor. In fact, may mga anecdotes. Ako may kwento nga ako just to share with everyone. Last January, I think I told you, last January I had a reunion with my high school classmates. And some of them are bragging that they got discounts from their schools through the ESC. I'm sure baka iba sa inyo naririnig niyo yun. No? And they're bragging. In fact, they're asking some of our classmates to transfer their kids to that school because they can get ESC allocations. No? But these are definitely non-poor because every year nasa Japan sila nagbabakasyon eh. No? So it's unfair. It's unfair. We see our public schools lack in notebooks, lack in textbooks, lack in inputs, teaching inputs. But we see subsidies going to non-poor families who can afford to take vacations in different countries. It's definitely unfair. We need to correct this.
Most definitely po, Senator. That's why nga po, no, this administration created the Government Assistance and Subsidies Office to really study this because for the longest time, Senator Win, hindi po ito natutukan ng any dedicated office in the department. So, yun po, we are, as the Vice President also mentioned, no, that she really wants also all the programs, especially ESC and senior high school voucher program, to be, kumbaga, tutukan talaga for its implementation because, of course, the Vice President also wants all programs to be implemented properly. And that is our commitment, Senator, to really revise and check all on our guidelines so that it will be implemented well. And noted po, duly noted po all the concerns that you raised, Senator. Thank you.
You can see the effort, in fairness to DepEd and under the leadership of Vice President Sara. She established the GAS, no? The Government Assistance and Subsidy Office. I know this is a fairly newly created office, and this is a right step forward. I can see also that you've analyzed this problem very carefully through your office, and we are looking forward to reforms. No? We need reforms in the implementation of this GASPE program. So I still have other questions, no? But I'll do the round so that everyone can also share their thoughts on the topic on hand. And we'll start off with Attorney Erap, who's, I know, very familiar with this topic, and also our legal counsel in EDCOM to share his thoughts about this program.
Thank you, Senator Win. Thank you, sir. I just had some random notes while listening to the discussion, Senator. Senator, I think there might be a need also to expand the coverage of the GASPE to the ALS, considering the recently enacted law in 2020, the Alternative Learning System Act, because many of the poor learners are there in the non-formal and informal systems of education. And also, I think it's really high time that we consider expansion of the subsidy programs to elementary, considering the mandate of compulsory elementary education, and uh, and also with the enactment of the K to 12 law, which makes all levels of basic education already compulsory and mandatory for the parents. Also, sir, I think I'm also listening to your discussions on the targeting the poor, sir. Maybe I've heard also this in the past, in many years ago, about discussions on coming up with several amounts of subsidies to target certain beneficiaries. Kasi right now it's nominal, so it's 14, 18, and 22. Parang natural tendency, I think the unintended consequence, yung pong binabanggit nyo. Like for example, for the bigger schools, maliit lang pong amount, yung like 22 in NCR, the tuition for the entire year talagang napakamahal. Talagang makaka-afford lang po nun to continue with their education is yung may kaya because they will top up. So maybe, I've heard this in the past na like higher subsidies for those who need it more and lower to those who can afford. And also, I think naging yung pong purpose from the aisle, targeting the aisle learners, parang over the years, parang there's also this concept of empowering choice of the parents, parang make them indifferent to costs, kung saan nila gusto, where there is quality. Parang kasi ang naging choice of schools is whether it's free or near free, but to give them that choice is also parang that has become one of the objectives also. But originally talaga yung the gospel law was really to target yung IELTS students. But I think if we're also now targeting all learners regardless, but of course prioritizing the poor, that may also be a secondary objective, just to empower the parents' choice of schools. And then, sir, siguro later on when this becomes relevant in the discussion, yung pong guidelines in the I'm also thinking of yung po kasing pag-manage or administer ng program. We're looking at the schools like providers, ESC providers, non-ESC providers, but eventually it's really the students, the learners who are entitled to the subsidy. We just course it through the schools. Siguro yung mga details po doon on guidelines on how we ensure that when, for example, the providers get disqualified, the learners do not suffer that problem, or the PAC or the DepEd ensures that they still continue in the qualified schools. Kasi yun ang nangyayari po ngayon eh. So, but I know it's very hard to monitor that per learner. But maybe that can be considered in the development of the guidance. And then last na lang po, sir, also related to that, is I think ang naging observation ko po yung collateral, like the collateral consequence of regulation on the implementation of the voucher program or EAC program. Like for example, sir, yung regulation, meaning the school violating certain guidelines of the DepEd that are non-related or not related to implementation of voucher. Ang naging collateral effect is when they get disqualified or when their recognition is revoked for an unrelated matter on the delivery of the voucher, nangyari po, nadi-disqualify sila sa voucher. Kawawa yung mga bata. Like for example po, lease. Halimbawa, merong the requirement of a 15-year lease if they don't own the facility. Let's say na hindi po na-renew yun. Automatic, they revoke of the recognition and automatically they're disqualified from implementing a government subsidies for any unrelated So maybe that can be included in the guidelines. Sana merong protection dun sa beneficiaries and grantees, that only when a non-compliance or a violation of the school is related to implementation of the program, they get disqualified. Otherwise, sana merong ganung special protection kasi ang talagang beneficiary po yung estudyante, is not really the school. Yun po yung mga observation ko in the past, how on siguro areas of improvement. And these are in the level of the rulemaking and guidelines crafting po ng mga agencies. And these are not These are not manifested. These are not shown in any ano po, no? Mga reports. It doesn't even appear in the COA, mga audit findings. But these are really areas of improvement in the ground po. So yun po na po. Salamat po.
Thank you, Attorney. But I'll pick up some points. No, that you made very important points, especially on the ALS program and also the transition of the ALS passers to junior high school. In this presentation that was presented by PAYAC, only 0.06% are ALS enrollees. And I understand from the presentation that there are 6 categories. No? But these 6 categories, are they prioritizations? Meaning you have to take category A first before you go category B, or walang prioritization? Okay. Yeah.
As to the prioritization, Mr. Chair, A and B are the priority students. Yes, because they are automatically
Automatic,
qualified.
no?
Yes.
So they're automatic. But the C, D, E, F,
What?
so
wala na
first
po.
come, first serve, I would assume.
Yes.
They
Yes.
apply, no? They apply. And the ALS, typically ALS are dropout yan, mga dropout for various reasons. Some of them got pregnant early, some of them worked with their family early, some of them are in conflict areas, some of them are CICL, diba? Some of them are victims of abuse. So marami. Some of them are children of migrant workers. So marami. So basically, these are marginalized and underprivileged. No? And can you go to the presentation ng DepEd, page 10? Page 10. And since they will apply, I saw this, page 10, this one. Since they will apply, I saw the flow chart of DepEd in terms of where the paper trail or where the paper application will go. Andali, we'll just show it. So for ito, Attorney Tara. So for a private school, non-ESC, this is the flow chart, tama? Flash on the screen.
That's right, Mr. Chair.
All right. But this is also the flow chart for ALS students.
That's right, Mr. Chair.
But why are we putting non-ESC and ALS students on the same plane? But the ALS students typically are marginalized and underprivileged. There's a reason why they stop school. And most of them stop school not because of their own volition, not because of their own decision. They stop because of externalities. But my point is, we're making it very complicated for them to go back to school. Nag-ALS na nga sila with the intention of going back to formal schooling, correct? But we're making it very difficult for them to enter formal education.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we also took note of that. In fact, our office is also checking the pros and cons of making us as automatic grantees, Mr. Chair. I understand that the previous administration also placed them in category E, but we have to also study the reason why they were placed there and not as automatic grantees. But that is also one of our our marching order also to check on us if we can also place them in category A, Mr. Chair.
But the ALS is designed to give our children or our learners a chance to go back to formal schooling, no? Whether it's tertiary or basic ed, but it's a chance for them to get their equivalency so that they can apply and go back to the mainstream, to formal schooling. But we're making it so difficult for them. No? Tingnan mo naman in steps. No? For them to go in, pati parents nga kasama dito eh. No? And in my own observation, probably 90% to 95% of ALS learners come from poor families. I'm sure meron rin non-poor. I am 100% meron yan. But from our discussion during the ALS law, majority of them, 90% comes from poor families because a lot of them stop schooling because of employment, because of livelihood purposes. That's why, because nga kulang yung pera ng kanilang pamilya, they had to stop schooling. So my point of the matter is, let's make it easier for them. We're giving them a second chance. Let's make the second chance easy for them, or else they will not take that second chance. No? In fact, in the data, 29,000? Yes, 29,000. Out of the 1.3 million students are from ALS. No? So my recommendation is make it automatic. Of course, the income status is a basic prerequisite, but let's make it automatic. We're happy to see them going back into the mainstream. And I thank Attorney Erap for that observation, because when we were analyzing the data, we also had the same reaction on bakit natin pinapahirapan yung ALS learners natin. No? So that's number one. And then number two, a reaction to Attorney Erap. We have intention to expand it to grade 1 to 6, provided that, again, no, we target the poor. We give priority to the poor. Admittedly, there are also some areas that they lack classrooms. For example, in BARM, no? Even elementary grades 1 to 6 they're experiencing some difficulty in classrooms. No? All right. So thank you to Attorney Erap. We call on Cocopea. Representing Cocopea, si Attorney, si Sister Bernardo.
Thank you, Your Honor. Listening to the discussion, may I suggest that in the creation of guidelines this guideline would include accreditation of voucher recipient schools, because right now in the ESC, there is an instrument that is being used by PAYAC to choose the recipient schools. However, in the senior high school, there is no required accreditation. I understand that PAYAC actually have started piloting the accreditation of the senior high school, but this is not a requirement. This is just on a voluntary basis. If the school wants to subject itself to accreditation, then PAYAC goes there. So may I suggest that we include this in the guidelines. The second thing I'd like to bring about is that, listening to the discussion, I agree that poverty of the learner be considered primarily. However, equally critical is the assurance that the money used for the poor would result to a higher student learning. Thus, I suggest that please include in the guideline the school's track record or the school's capability to bring about better student learning when you decide on where to send the poor. Because I understand that we are wasting a lot of money, Mr. Chair. However, I believe that we will be even wasting more than what we are wasting actually now if the quality of education that these poor people will be getting is not there. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Sister Attorney Christine.
Mr. Chair, if I may be allowed, just to add to Sister's earlier statement, Of course, Mr. Chair, again, listening to the discussions, we would like to also express our support in relation to the inclusion of the ALS students. I think this is an opportunity or an area that we can really improve and really target those who really need this kind of subsidy from the government. And it was also mentioned, Mr. Chair, that the Department of Education, through the Office of Attorney Tara Gas, the Gas Office, that they are creating new set of guidelines in relation to the subsidy. And we look forward to, and hopefully we will be able to participate in crafting these new guidelines. And on that note, Mr. Chair, we would also like to perhaps support or corroborate the earlier statement that we hope uh, the subsidies of that are intended for students will not be necessarily affected for in relation to school compliances, or in case a school may have certain violations under the DepEd issuances. Just to share, Mr. Chair, because I know some schools that have violations that are not necessarily subsidy related. And of course, we do not condone those kinds of violations. If there are certain errors on the part of the school, of course, there should be certain consequences. But again, these violations are not subsidy related, but the sanction imposed or the sanctions imposed would be their disqualification or removal from the subsidy program. And ultimately, the students are affected, are those that are ultimately affected. And sometimes the decision would come in during the school year already, when the students are already enrolled in the school. So perhaps, Mr. Chair, and I also understand that there are already efforts on the part of DepEd to also look into and revise or review the DO 88, where under DO 88, the sanctions or penalties are listed, but there are no guidelines on how these penalties or sanctions will be imposed. It's just a list. So perhaps we can harmonize the new guidelines in relation to subsidies and the ongoing review of DO 88, so that there will be no perhaps conflict with regards to these kinds of provisions, Mr. Chair.
Any reaction to that, Attorney Tara? That's the second time I've heard this issue. It came up it came out when Attorney Erap mentioned it earlier, that apparently some of the, if I understand it correctly, no, the violations have nothing to do with the subsidy program, no, and the violations are being used as a reason to hold the subsidy or to remove the school from the subsidy. No? So I think it's a question of clear guidelines, but I'll let you expound on that so that our friends from the private school sector will be enlightened.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That penalty of removing a private school whenever they have incurred any violation of DepEd policies is written in is provided in DO 88. DO 88 is DepEd order which was issued in 2010, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Yeah, 2010. So part of the penalty po doon, Mr. Chair, is that any violation of the private schools sa any policy or issuances ng DepEd, one of the penalty is that they are taken out from or terminated, either terminated or suspended from the voucher program. I understand that with the operations, they are looking at this already, taking note of all the concerns of the private schools. And also, yun po, kung ma-revise lang po yon, Mr. Chair, then we will be able, so hindi na po natin makikita yung ganun po na penalty. As for us naman po sa Government Assistance and Subsidy Service, isa po yan sa mga tinitingnan din po namin. For example, if there were any violations committed by the school, if the decision will come out in the middle of the school year, what we will do is that the implementation should be looking forward or prospective. So example po, if there is a violation, voucher-related violation, and the decision was made in, for example, July 2020, 2024. So since affected na po yung school year 2024-2025, prospective po yung penalty of the suspension and termination. It would be in school year 2025, and then it will affect only those incoming. Meaning, yung nag-grade 11 na din po nung school year 2024-2025, they will not be taken from the voucher program, meaning they can still be a voucher recipient until they will have to be promoted in grade 12. So, yan po din yung tinitingnan natin doon sa revision natin na guidelines, Mr. Chair, so that they will not be disenfranchised. Thank you po.
Cite an example, Attorney Erap, because dalawa kayo nag-mention that, no? And ako kasi my initial thought is, if we want to do that, then it has to be very clear, no, in the guidelines, so that I agree with Attorney Christine that the ultimate bearer of that penalty are the students, no? Because obviously they cannot graduate, no? So, but I'll let Attorney Erap cite some examples so that that can be cleared up in the succeeding reform of the guidelines, because we're now, I think there's already a meeting of the minds that the guidelines for GASPE, no, voucher and ESE, will be reformed, no, to reflect the things that we mentioned earlier. I think they should be included as well, no?
Yes, sir.
So let's cite some examples, so while we're here, we can already tackle that.
Sir, ang dagdag lang po ako dun sa just to provide clarity, if I may, then I'll give an example. Yung pong sinabi ni Attorney Tara, nasa Manual of Regulations po ngayon, there's a provision there that in case of any violation of the provisions of the Manual of Regulations, may mga certain penalties, one of which is that the school shall lose its right to implement any government subsidy program. So it's very general. However, over the years po, dun sa implementation ng PAYAC, ng ESC and vouchers, DepEd, also with the help of PAYAC, came out with very specific guidelines on participating schools. So very, ano po yun, very specific yung mga grounds. Like for example, you accept students who are not eligible or ghost students, or you have to refund. Mahaba po yung proseso before you lose your right to implement the subsidy program. Yun, very specific yun. However, there's another DO or DepEd order that's very general. Any violation in school, you lose your entitlement. Ganun kabilis, no? You lose your right to implement a government subsidy program. And my personal take on that, sir, is that yung pong rule natin when it comes to laws na special laws shall prevail over application over general laws, no? Regardless whether it's a later law or an earlier law, always the special law shall prevail. I think that also applies in administrative issuances. Yung dapat yung participating school should not lose its right to implement the ESC program pursuant to a very general policy, which is the Manual of Regulations. Dapat yung guideline, kasi very tedious yun, before you lose it, may talagang due process, and they really protect the students there in that guide. So dapat yun ang masusunod. I'll give you an example, sir. Sir, I think nilapit ko po ito sa inyo before, in my past life as a lawyer for some schools. Example po, nung wala pa itong no permit, no exam law, one of the students in the private school, ESC school, nagkaroon sila ng violation daw ng implementation of the no permit, no exam. They did not allow one of the students to take the exam. Ang nangyari, after some due process with the DepEd, sabi ng DepEd, okay, revoke yung recognition niyo. So ang naging effect po, dahil lang sa isang student na hindi nagbayad ng tuition na pinaboran ng DepEd, lahat po ng grantees doon, they all lost their ESC grant. just because of that. So wala man lang opportunity yung school to protect the other beneficiaries because of a violation na automatic. Because your recognition was downgraded to a permit, automatically all of your grantees will no longer be continuing grantees. Yun. So I think that's one of the examples. Yung iba, so super ano na po like very minor. Like for example, upon monitoring of DepEd, may nakita na size of classroom or lease or talagang has nothing to do with implementation of voucher. They get that the risk of losing their right to implement the voucher program. So siguro po, while not saying na i-condone yung mga ganon, but there should be a special procedure for the schools also to make sure na the grantees continue to enjoy that if they're naman implementing the program properly, no. And I think there's may very tedious guidelines in yung over the years. In-update po yun ng PEAC at ng DepEd. They improve it every time to ensure walang ghost students, make sure they really follow or implement the ESC guidelines over the years. Kaya lang, there's another naman provision that says, ganun lang kadali, you lose it. Ang hirap mag-apply, then you also lose it indirectly as an indirect consequence of a regulatory function. And I think, sir, this is also the reason why hindi po talaga pwedeng i-combine under one office yung nagre-regulate at yung nagbibigay ng subsidy, because it will conflict that we recognize yung regulatory that's function, that standard setting, make sure there's quality delivery of the programs. Dapat separate po, independent of granting subsidies. It has to be followed because that's regulatory function, that's police power of DepEd. But that should not be combined. Otherwise, baka magkaroon ng conflict of interest. Meaning, sir, if we're saying that if you committed an offense, automatically you lose your right to implement the voucher program. Pwedeng kabaliktaran din yun I give you the recognition so that you can enjoy the benefits of the subsidy without looking at whether you are qualified for the recognition or not. Kung isa lang po ang titingin nun. So dapat po talaga magkaiba yun Kasi in the past, implementation, ganon nangyari. Yung mga matagal na PEAC version na. Okay, bibigyan kayo ng recognition for the purpose of participating in the program. Not because you have complied with the standards of quality na sinet ng DepEd. Yun, sir. Yun po mga, I think, pwede talagang improvement, areas of improvement.
Thank you, Attorney Era.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Christine, do you want to cite any examples to that effect?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Just to, at the top of my head, Mr. Chair, perhaps we can consider, and of course, DepEd can consider in their proposed or new guidelines. Maybe we can come up, kasi po Mr. Chair, sa DO 88, as EDCOM mentioned earlier, it's just a general provision. I think that's section 88 or section 188 or 189 of DO 88. It's just a list of possible sanctions. So that includes a revocation of permit, of recognition, disqualification from subsidy programs, disqualification from school grants. There are others, Mr. Chair. So it's just a general list of sanctions. And at the moment, Mr. Chair, there is really no specific guidelines or some kind of matrix on how these penalties or sanctions will be imposed. It's possible po that the school committed a very minor or a minor violation, but the consequence or the penalty to be imposed is removal of recognition, which we know if a school loses the recognition, there will be a domino effect on the subsidy, on other grants or benefits. So it's not just the simple losing of the recognition. May snowballing effect po yan on the part of the school and of course our students. Actually, just to give an example din po, I know of a school that the violation is non-subsidy related. I think this was during the pandemic. May certain breach in COVID protocols, but ultimately the sanction imposed was they lost their privilege to participate in subsidy programs. in the subsidy program, and at that time, I think they have hundreds of students already enrolled for the school year. So they had to assist the student to look for a school to transfer in the middle of the school year, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, thank you. I know where DepEd is coming from. No, as a regulator, they will use all tools available to make sure that schools are compliant, and erring schools will be penalized. No, that's one of the common intuition of regulators. They'll use everything possible in their arsenal to penalize the school. However, there are consequences to that. No? One of which is the students who are studying and going to school. So I would leave the decision to DepEd, no, on how to approach this issue. However, I would like to I am suggesting to DepEd to make it clear in the guidelines. If you are going to put the regulatory aspect as part of the subsidy, just make it very clear. No? And bearing in mind that we have grantees already studying there, we have grantees already going to school, some of the parents have already planned their financial outlook for the next, ibang parents, they plan until the graduate, no, of the students. They factor in the subsidy and the grants being given by government. So let's also factor that in. Of course, the plea is to separate the subsidy portion and the regulatory portion, but I'll leave that decision to DepEd. No? That's a policy that DepEd needs to decide among the top management.
Duly noted, Mr. Chair. With regard to that, the regulation and the voucher portion, actually the GAS, the Government Assistance and Subsidies of Service, is actually handling the voucher, while for the regulation part, we have also a newly created office, which is the Office of Director Gemma, the Private Education Office, who is also handling the regulatory part. Duly noted, sir, that with the suggestions, also recommendations of the private schools, that once we regulate, we have to keep in mind that we will not be disenfranchising any students. So just like what I said, shared, Mr. Chair, that in our revised guidelines, we have to ensure that even if that erring school, even if it's voucher related, if the decision comes out in the middle of the school year, we will apply the penalty prospectively, meaning they cannot accept, example, grade 11 incoming students, but those already there in the grade 11 and grade 12 will have to still enjoy the subsidy benefits, and then until they graduate senior high school. Yan po, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
For that feedback. I'll raise a very important point that Sister Bernardo raised, which is the point on quality. And I also noted from the COA report that there's a lack of quality assurance or quality matrix insofar as the voucher program is concerned. In fact, the COA report related it to the National Achievement Test, no, as a measure. No? But you all know the National Achievement Test is also one big problem. No? I know there were bidding issues in the past, no. But the point of the COA report here is how do we measure quality? How do we measure quality of the schools and the quality of the schools that are receiving subsidies? This is only for the voucher system. And I understand also from the COA report, there's no mechanism, no, to filter out good schools, to filter out quality schools. So I agree with Sister Bernardo that it's not enough to just give subsidy to our poor constituents, but we want to make sure that they're going to quality schools as well, because government is paying it anyways, or subsidizing it anyways. And we want to give the best to the marginalized learner, because of course, they need more helping hand in order to keep up in life. So right now, is there any mechanisms to quality assure schools that are receiving the voucher program? In ESC, I know there is, but in the voucher program, what's the status of that issue?
Mr. Chair, that is also one of our efforts, no, to place that mechanism also in the revised guidelines. But I just want to also share with you the e-GASPE bill, which was deliberated in the lower house, in the House of Representatives, in the CIBEC. Committee of Congressman Roman. Actually, that is also his concern with regard to the quality of the schools where our voucher beneficiaries are enrolling in. So in the substitute e-GASPE bill, which is the latest version, it is placed here, it is written here that the DepEd shall establish, operate, and maintain a system and mechanism for monitoring program outcomes to ensure accountability of participating recognized private basic education institution, which covers the following area. Letter A, improve student performance. Appropriate performance indicator to determine the extent and outcome of the government assistance and subsidies program, which includes youth literacy rates, national and international assessment scores, among others. And for this purpose, the national achievement tests shall be administered to all students in private basic education institutions. For the part of the Department of Education, Mr. Chair, we are also making revisions and improvements in our national achievement tests that is handled by the Bureau of Educational Assistance. Assessment. Sorry. BEA po, sir. Mr. Chair.
Attorney, I mentioned earlier that legislation takes time, no? So,
Yes.
is there any prohibition to already come up with a mechanism to assure quality in participating voucher program participating schools?
We will be incorporating that already in the revised guidelines, Mr. Chair, along with the underprivileged po na indicators po natin.
I think that's very important. No? In the ESC, there's already a mechanism to make sure that only quality schools participate. That concept should be carried over to the voucher program. No? And while we're already reforming, hindi na nga tweaking, no? Reforming the department order or the guidelines, let's include quality assurance as well. And later on, the co-report revealed co-students, and I will tackle that, but that's related to quality. No? Definitely, that's related to quality, because when you say quality, that includes management, that includes transparency from the school, that includes the way the school is being operated. No? So, include in your reform of the GASPE the quality aspect. We support the e-GASPE reform bill in the lower house. In fact, we will adopt a lot of their concepts there to include quality. But that will take time. In legislation, you cannot predict the outcome. So while we're waiting for the legislation, if there are nothing that bars DepEd to reform the guidelines, then let's include quality already.
Most definitely, Mr. Chair.
We call on Attorney Estrada, then si Mr. Malonzo.
Sir, on quality assurance, the basic quality assurance tool within DepEd in general is the issuance of recognition, permit and recognition to offer the program. So this is not only for the ESC and vouchers, but offering the basic education in general as a way of quality assuring schools. DepEd issues a permit. So this is in the initial stages of or years of the offering of the program. And permit is temporary in nature. Then then it matures into a recognition. Ito po yung government authority to issue the program as a permanent program of the school. Yung pong, nung bago pa lang po yung senior high school program, all schools or all providers intending to offer the senior high school program were given permits under certain requirements po. So the permit was temporary, and the intention then was issue guidelines later on for a recognition of the senior high school program. But up to this date, permit pa lang po. So ang ibig po sabihin, lahat po na nag-offer ng senior high school programs ngayon, they're just under a permit, which is temporary. The requirements for quality are not similar to requirements of recognition for grade 7 to 10. And we're encouraging DepEd to come up with requirements for recognition for senior high as a way of quality assurance. Kasi po, yung sa ESC, guidelines for accreditation ng PAYAC, ang minimum requirement po doon, dapat may recognition ng DepEd. And now, the PAYAC cannot require the same thing for senior high kasi simply because there's no recognition policy for senior high at the moment. So we really encourage DepEd, and that can be done without legislation, sir, because and that's a process within DepEd. They've been implementing that for junior high, so we're hoping that can also be, because that will filter the schools yung mga low quality, and then we can say only those complying with recognition standards may implement the senior high school voucher. Yes, sir. So just a suggestion and encouragement from DepEd, to DepEd po.
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney Erap. Mr. Malonzo?
Thank you, Senator Gatchalian. When the AOM from COA came out on quality assurance, the PAC has always been pushing for senior high school voucher program certification. But as a matter of fact, we already have an instrument for senior high school voucher for the senior high school. But since we don't have guidelines yet on certification for senior high school, we just implemented it on those who would like to voluntarily submit themselves to certification. But these are a handful of schools that have voluntarily submitted themselves for certification.
There's an assurance that DepEd will include quality assurance to their new guidelines, and we'll expect that in the next issuance of the new guidelines. I'll call on Mr. Balawag of the BARM. Any comments on the topic?
Yes, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. For the BARM, on the issue of the voucher system, historically, the region has not been involved with the process and policies regarding the programs being implemented by the PAYAC, except the recent coursing through of billings for endorsement following the halting of the funding by the DepEd Central Office during the transition period from the ARM to BARM in 2019. So considering this lack of involvement, the ministry has no way of verifying the accuracy of the billing claims and of monitoring the implementation of the program in the region. That's why maybe on the guidelines to be finalized by the DepEd Central Office, we suggest to consider also the extent of the involvement of the regional offices. In as much as I guess no regional directors were present here, we want to, of course, suggest that for consideration, the extent of the participation of, or rather involvement of the regional offices on the implementation of the program. The ministry has no participation in the selection, identification of beneficiaries, and slot allocation. It will only gain knowledge as to the beneficiaries once the billing statements are transmitted. So as a process, the ministry makes an assessment only as to the existence of the accredited schools and whether such are still in operation. Moreover, the ministry has no funds provided for administration, validation, and monitoring since it does not neither administer nor implement the program. But on the other hand, Honorable Chairperson, Senator Win, we are so grateful for the inclusion of the special provision on the GAA 2024, ensuring the continued implementation of this government assistance and subsidies program for beneficiaries for the Bangsamoro learners, teachers, and schools under our region. So we implore, of course, the continuation of this inclusion of our region in this program. And we truly appreciate the current administration for pushing for the inclusion of BARM in the allocation and implementation of the national education programs, like this one, the voucher system, the ESC, which are essential in ensuring that access to education for every Bangsamoro learners, of course, are being considered. One good thing we took note also is on the classroom congestion, Senator Win, if we can remember in the last hearing, committee hearing, BARM was mentioned many times as the second ranking insofar as congestion on classroom is concerned. In fact, we question some data, the 1:519 ratio as presented in Sulu. That is why we submitted already our own data to the committee email as requested last week. But of course, considering this one, still on the report of DepEd a while ago, in the matter of shortages, we rank as among the regions having the highest number of classroom shortages. Rank number 3, and rank number 1 is the 4A and NCR respectively. But of course, this is the very reason why, Honorable Senator, we always implore and request the inclusion of our region in the school building program in the budget allocation of the DepEd Central Office. We are always praying for this one, that BARM be included on these programs. And finally, the Ministry of Basic Higher and Technical Education under the leadership of our Honorable Minister, Mohagi Rikbal, reaffirms our full support to the objectives of this committee hearing, and we commit to actively contribute for these undertakings, because we believe that a thorough assessment on the implementation of this Republic Act number 8545 is essential for informing evidence-based policy decision and advancing the collective goal in ensuring equitable access to quality education of all Filipinos, more specifically in our region, the Bangsamoro learners. And we do look forward, Senator Win, for more opportunity to collaborate with the good chairperson of the Senate Committee on Basic Education, the Central Office, DepEd officials, and other stakeholders of our education. Sokran.
Thank you, Mr. Balawag. Right now, I understand that in BARM, there are 125 recipient schools. Tama ba? No? Do you have that data? Or DepEd, do you have that data? But based on our research, there are about 125.
From the alpha list.
Yeah. Well, we got it from the alpha list of PAYAC. No? So, in other words, national government continues to subsidize learners in the BARM area.
Yes, in 2024 it was included,
Yeah.
Senator.
Does BARM have an equivalent of GASPE? Are you formulating your own GASPE program in the BARM area? Because BARM is an autonomous
Yes.
region, so you can create your own programs in that area.
For now, there is no similar program that sustain this butcher program or the ESC. That is why we keep on coordinating closely with the central office to continue the project and be funded by the national government.
Okay. And in terms of, earlier I showed in terms of IELTS learners, but I'll show a slide in terms of schools. And slide, this one, figure 7. Can we show that? 27. This is in terms of schools. So number of students divided by number of classrooms. Lumalabas na BARM has the highest number of congested schools, no? Here, no? Based on our research. But when I went there, I remember talking to Minister Iqbal, I think we were there also. The problem is, I mentioned this during the last hearing, the problem is the low participation rate of our students. So meaning students are not going to school. But those who are going to school is experiencing congestion. No? So there are two problems that we need to address. Number one is to encourage more students to go to school. But while we encourage them to go to school, we have to build more classrooms. No? Or use the subsidy, the voucher to guide them or to put them in private schools where they have excess capacity in that area. No? So, do you think that the voucher program can help students go to school or improve participation rates?
Yes,
And
sir.
then number two, somehow address this congestion. This is per school level. No?
Yes, sir. We strongly believe that the program could, help our students invite their attention to go back to school and continue their education in our region.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Balawag. We call on CHED, Ms. Yvonne De Vera. Are you related
Thank
to,
you, Mr. Chair.
Are you related to the chairman?
No po,
Opo
sir.
De Vera.
Hindi po, sir. On the point of view po of CHED, we support naman din po yung voucher system program ng DepEd. And we also agree po dun sa observation nyo, Mr. Chair, to put income threshold to address the right beneficiaries po. In CHED, we also have PESPA, Mr. Chair. So, ang income threshold po namin doon is 400,000 below po yung pwedeng mag-apply for scholarship. Ang difference lang naman po nito is meron pong grade requirement na hinihingi po sa kanila. Kasi ito po ay, yung PESPA po ay ino-offer for poor but deserving students po. So, ang isa pa po is yung sa, although meron po kaming income threshold na 400,000, hindi rin naman po namin inilimit lang doon yung basis sa income. In case po na ang income ng isang aplikante ay nag-exceed sa 400,000, meron pong kinukonsider doon kung ilan po yung nag-aaral na magkakapatid. Isa rin po is yung kung meron pong may sakit sa pamilya. So, to support po yung kanilang application, ang hinihingi po natin sa kanila is yung social case study, ini-issue po ng social welfare. Yun lang. That's all, Mr. Chair.
How does TESDA define deserving students?
CHED po.
Sorry, CHED.
Deserving students po, meron ang hinihingi po nating grade requirement po sa kanila is yung 93% above. Sa selection criteria po, ang academic requirement is 70%, then yung academic requirement is 30%, Mr. Chair.
And how many beneficiaries do you have?
For 2024, 2025, we have 13,000 beneficiaries, Mr. Chair. That includes the ongoing and new beneficiaries po.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you po.
I'll go back to the COA report. And it was mentioned earlier there are ghost students, no? And how do you define Ma'am Imelda, ghost students?
Actually, sir, this is ghost students refer to those which were named twice or more in the billing statement because of the difference in the names. Although, parang example po is ganito, there are twins, although medyo gray area din yung ano na yun, merong 41 identified twins having the same, of course, the same surname, and they have the same name except that they have different suffix name. Kunyari po, Jenny. And then the first one is Maria Jenny and the second one is Marie Jenny. So this is counted as one student, I think. Kaya parang yung isa nagiging ghost. Ganoon po yung upon analysis of the findings. Kaya hindi talaga siya actually ghost student.
It's
However,
you mean one name used twice or
Yes, sir.
more than twice
Yes, sir.
in different schools?
maybe in the same school,
Maybe in
or
the same
there are instances that they are enrolled in different schools.
Instances of ghost students have you detected?
Per audit findings, there are four. May I just read, sir? An initial of 115 senior high school VP beneficiaries from school years 2016 and 2017 were considered ghost students since they were billed by senior high school voucher program participating school more than once in the same school year.
Di ba ang DepEd, they use LIS
Yes, sir.
they assign LIS to to students, no? LRN pala, LRN to a student, so that it's a unique number per student. So natingnan nyo yun, LRN? Did you look at that? Maybe they're the same name, but
I think the audit team then had looked into that, and at the same time, the PAO, the performance audit team also have the same findings on that, sir.
and when you conducted your audit/investigation, you found out indeed that these two names is only one person.
Yes, sir.
And
So-
they have two different LRNs.
Yes, sir. So
How is that possible?
They were required to refund the amount, but again, it is.
Was there any admission that from the school that these are indeed the same person?
Okay, sir. The DepEd PAYAC had investigated, had also investigated this instance because of the findings from
Yeah.
the COA and then the PAO. So, DepEd Order Number 20, the series of 2017, defined ghost students who are ghost students refer to the following. Significant number of absent ESC grantees during a monitoring visit. Whose absence cannot be satisfactorily explained by the school officials. Letter B, ESC grantees billed under a specific school unit delivery made but attended classes in different school or campuses. And letter C, ESC grantees listed as enrolled but have not attended classes since the start of the semester. And letter D, ESC grantees listed and billed multiple times in the same school or in different ESC participating junior high school. So this is the definition of ghost student.
Different categories
Yes,
of a
sir.
ghost student. But there are, I guess there are, the way you explain it, there are, sometimes they transfer or sometimes they move around.
Yes, sir.
And that's a legitimate reason for them to, movement and mobility is a legitimate reason. So they're not considered ghost students.
Actually, sir, in my opinion, sir, they are not good students, but
Okay.
rather there is an error in the monitoring or in the listing of the beneficiaries.
But the mere fact there are refunds, then there are ghost students. Diba? I mean, you want refund if you think it's, if you admit to a refund, then that means you admit that there is something wrong. Whether it's a ghost student or an clerical error or administrative error, then there's something wrong. No?
Okay, sir.
But I want to detect, kasi I'm trying to find out whether there is intention to defraud government. That's what I'm trying to elicit from COA based on your analysis. Is there an intention or baka honest error to or movement? But is there deliberate effort to defraud government?
At this point in time, sir, I cannot speak for the findings of the previous audit team, but as I have said before, moving forward, we're going to look into that. We're going to audit, perform the same audit kasi this was performed in 2016 and 2018. So, considering the lapse of time, parang napabayaan yata yung period na yon na walang audit on that. So, kailangan po naming ma-determine ulit. And then, by that, through our audit, we can render an opinion whether or not there is an intentional an intention to commit or to defraud the government. But, yeah, yun po yung magiging an objective ng audit namin ngayon.
I'll just show a few things. No, this is a report that came from PAYAC, and this is apparently the list of schools that are for termination and terminated. No? And I was just looking at the amounts. No? For example, ito St. Joseph School of Candaba, 80 million to be refunded. Ang laki nito 80 million. And then there's another one. I just went through this randomly. There's no intention to cherry pick. San Jose Academy of Bulacan, 68 million. Then Electron College of Technical Education, 14 million. So, my question is, paano umabot ng ganito kalaki at 68 million? How did it reach this big? Because if it's one transfer, maybe administrative error, I would assume this is just, it will run into hundreds. Pero we're talking about 80 million, 68 million, 14 million. And then I saw also in a PAYAC report that we're still expecting, I'll flash on the screen, 239 million pesos to be refunded. No? This is another report that we got from PAYAC. My question is, paano umabot ng 239 million there? 239 million ang i-refund from the voucher program. And then one school can rack up to 80 million in terms of refund. How do we, what is the, ano ito, naipon or the magnitude of students? Let's take an example of St. Joseph School of Candaba. Random to, I'm not picking schools. Can you give us the reason why they have to refund 80 million pesos? This, I'm trying to relate this to the ghost students. Baka there is really an intention to defraud government, meaning they put different students, the same name, or maybe some of them are non-existing students. I don't know. No, I don't know. But let's use this St. Joseph School of Candaba as an example. Why do they have to refund 80 million pesos? Yeah, Mr. Malonzo, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Just checking the data that we have for the school.
Meron pa dito isa, Mary Queen College of Science and Technology, 82 million pesos. Do you see my point? If it's just administrative error, clerical error, then I would accept maybe 100,000, 200,000, but we're talking about 82 million. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you again. For St. Joseph of Candaba, this was a actual monitoring visit to the school where we require the school to present documents of the existence of the VPBs that they build. So we specifically ask for the class records of the VPBs, the school form 1, which is a DepEd required school form, DepEd school form 2, and their birth certificates. Now, unfortunately, for majority or for a big portion of their VPBs, they weren't able to present on any documents during the visit, during the monitoring activity. So that's the reason
In other
why-
words, they're billing the government, but they cannot present documents to prove the existence of those students. So those are, can I call them literally ghost students?
Right now, we call them kasi undocumented VPBs.
How many of those for the Candaba, St. Joseph School of Candaba? How many undocumented students are we talking about?
It's around 3,800, more or less.
3,800.
I'll check again. It's at 4,600 currently.
So in other words, they cannot submit any documents on these 4,600 students?
During the visit, they weren't able to substantiate the existence of the VPBs because they failed to present the documents that were required during the
And
visit.
what are the documents that are required?
Again, it's the class record.
Class record.
Which includes yung attendance of the VPBs. Isa
Okay.
yun. The school form 1, which is the list, enrollment list that they submit to DepEd. And then school form 2, which is a report also that is submitted to DepEd as well. So those are the 3 documents that were checked during the monitoring activity.
And then they agreed to refund that 80 million?
Right now, the case is ongoing.
Okay.
They've indicated that they plan to submit documents to us, but we haven't received it yet, no, the complete documents. But that's the current status of the school right now.
Okay. Coco Pea, do you have any information regarding this? If you want any to join in and enlighten us on these schools that I mentioned earlier, feel free, no? Because 4,600 undocumented students is quite big, no? Just to give you an idea, the biggest school in Valenzuela is 4,000 students, so one school yun. Hindi naman pwede nawawala yung 4,000 students, di ba? Unless there's, again, I guess it's really a deliberate effort talaga, no? But maybe Attorney Manawag can enlighten us on this.
Yes,
If you
Mr.
know this case.
In addition to what Peak mentioned, aside from requiring these schools po, no, to comply with the documentary requirements, based on our experience, yung mga ganitong schools po will also simultaneously receive demands for refund. So the efforts are simultaneous, Mr. Chair, to ensure that the school will refund, or if they do not, if they really want to retain their billings, they have to comply with PAYAC documentary requirements. They basically need to substantiate or justify that these students are actually enrolled and actually attending and are actual beneficiaries of the voucher. So simultaneous to that, Mr. Chair, demand letters or demand to refund are sent to these kinds of schools, Mr. Chair.
Process ba, so they submit billing and then DepEd immediately pays the amount? So there's no validation first as to, let's say, these 4,000 students are really in existence. What is the process right now? So I know may billing yan eh. Pag billing ba, immediately pay?
Before po, Senator Win, I think that was the process, the procedure, because we understand that the billing statement goes through the PAYAC Regional Secretariat and the DepEd Regional Office. So when it goes to the PAYAC National Secretariat as well, it's being endorsed right before the DepEd Central Office receives it. So when the DepEd Central Office receives it, I think before the procedure was they will already pay it, and then PAYAC on the other hand will just have a post billing monitoring. But during the time that gas was created, Senator Win, for this year, 2023-2024, before we paid, that's what I said, that we provided another layer in the central office, that before we pay, we actually check it or cross-check it with our learners' information system. And in fact, right now, not all billings of private schools were paid, because we found out that there's discrepancy. That's why we hold po yung payment nila. Only those billing statements which are in sync with our learners' information system, that's the only payment that we released. The rest po, we hold it in the central office, and that is only what we did when GAS was created.
The learner reference number be tampered? Who creates the learner reference number?
Not my forte, but planning, perhaps.
Kasi
Can
the
I
theory
ask?
here, parang national ID yan. One student, one learner reference number. And the LRN cannot be theoretically cannot be tampered. So that if the student moves from one grade level to the other, you can follow him or her.
Senator, can I ask
Yes,
Mr. Ariel?
go ahead.
He's from
go ahead.
our planning.
Yeah. Because aside from the non-poor, aside from the non-decongestion, we're now talking about another leakage, which is ghost students. No? And correct me if I'm wrong, if you add all of those, it's close to 19,000 students, undocumented students, tama?
More or less po.
So about 19,000 undocumented students. So the undocumented can be literally no student. Can be possible. We don't know. No? So that's why I want to go to the basics. Can the learner reference number be tampered?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Yung creation po ng ating mga LRNs po ay through the school advisor, sir. So may account po lahat ng advisor po sa public school, but for the private school, they have the registrar po who create the LRN of the learners. But as to the tampering po, sir, hindi po kasi automatic po siya na create sa system natin ng LIS, but they can create as many as they can based po dun sa documents or na meron sila or number of learners na meron sila, sir.
So I noticed kasi that there are, since the voucher system was created, there are a lot of senior high school institutions right now. No? We were doing some research. There are now schools that are just senior high school, TechVoc, senior high school, maybe a little college, pero wala siyang junior high school, wala siyang other grade levels, just senior high school lang siya. And I also noticed, I'll show you some ads later on, the way they market, talagang aggressive marketing. I'll show you one, yung Electron College or Electron School. No top-up, libre bag, libre uniform, libre ID, libre halos lahat, libre na eh. No? I saw it's really an aggressive marketing strategy, which is fine. No? But I see a lot of this type of schools, no? Na senior high school lang and some TechVoc. Now, my question is, can schools like this create their own LRN?
No, sir. Actually, ang LRN po is a 12-digit number. The first 6 digit is the school ID. Ibig sabihin, so, sir, pag may school ID sila, ibig sabihin, may permit or acknowledge po ng DepEd, the first 6 digits. While that 7 and 8, yun po yung school year kung kailan siya kinreate. And then the 4 digits po yun yung automatically po na makikreate na po yung ano.
Pagpasok ng student sa mga senior high school schools, can they create LRNs?
Usually, sir, dapat meron na po kasi...
Tama, dapat meron na, di ba?
Yes, sir. Kasi kung nag-start po tayo ng LIS noong 2011, sir, lahat po yun ay dapat kung mag-senior high school sila, automatic from the junior high school.
Correct.
Meron na, sir.
So theoretically, they come from junior high school, so dapat dala-dala nila yung LRN. But can they create? Can a school create?
No, sir. They can create, sir, if
Junior
yung-
high school, senior high school,
Sa
Can they
ngay-
create?
Sa ngayon, sir, dapat hindi na. Before, sir, nung nag-start pa lang, dahil possible yung learner ay balik-aral, returning students po siya, at tapos matagal siyang nawala sa basic ed, possible po yun. But,
So if I'm a senior high school, I can create, may mga students, 4,000 came to me to enroll, I can create my own LRN?
sir, it should be, bago po kayo, sir, na school, it should be approved by the division planning officer. Kasi
Hindi, okay lang. I went through the process. Sabi nga ni Attorney Erap, may permit ako, everything, kompleto document ko. But
Yes.
can I create my own LRN?
You can create, but it should be approved by the division planning officer. Kasi nga ang ano natin, sir, ang proseso natin is the student meron na dapat siyang LRN nung junior high school tsaka nung elementary siya. Pero pag bago po kayo or talagang newly students po ay talagang it should be approved by the division planning officer kasi we need to check also doon sa birth certificate kung bakit ngayon lang rin siya nagkaroon ng LRN. So, yun, mabe-verify po natin doon, sir. So, hindi po talaga basta-basta pwedeng makapag-create ang isang eskwelahan, sir.
So, but going back to this St. Joseph School of Candaba, yung mga student niya walang LRN.
Sir, tinitignan rin po namin dun sa database namin. Actually, ang learners po nila is 6,000 plus
Okay.
learners. And
The 4,000,
that came from the LIS, sir.
okay.
So, yun meron, sir. But yung sinabi po ni Sir Roderick, we can verify po yung by the list of the LRNs to the students po na for investigation po.
Oo. Yeah, go ahead. I'm doing this as a case study. I'm not
Yes,
cherry picking.
Senator, when the school build their VPBs, they have LRNs. Kasi that's one of the requirements before they get encoded in our system. That they have to have an LRN, and that the learner reference number and and the name of the VPB matches there is a match in the LIS. So, yun yung isang checking na ginagawa ng system natin ngayon. So, apparently, it passed the checking, and that's the reason why the school was able to build. But right now, no, we are also improving the interface between the LIS and the VMS, the system that we're using, to also include other data elements to validate these learners if they're really enrolled in the school.
Since government has already paid this
Yes,
amount, what is the ratio of refund to the
Yes.
amount that you demanded? Do we get everything? Sige, I'll rephrase it. How much is the expected refund amount? 239? Tama ba? I flashed earlier. To date, government is expecting 239 million as refund. Tama? Only for voucher program, ah?
For those who were terminated and for recommended for termination, it's at 363 million.
363 million. We're expecting that refund. Okay. And based on your experience, what is the refund amount? Do we get the entire amount of refund?
There are schools that were able to provide documents for some of their VPBs, pero meron din talagang wala. So for example,
Like which school?
for example, the data we have on it's Asian Institute of Technology. The initial findings is 316. It went down to 198. So the amount of refunds is lowered. And the school was already able to submit their refund for the 4.1 million.
So how much is their, I don't have that in my list. How much are they supposed to, how many students are undocumented?
During the monitoring activity, it was 316. But when they were able to submit their documents for 128, so it went down from 316 to 198. And the amount of refund is at 4.4 million.
Okay. And they refunded the amount?
Yes, they're able.
And
they're
what's
able
the
to-
reason how come they are undocumented? What's the reason? 316 students are undocumented. What's the reason? I mean, when you enroll, obviously the documents should be ready already. So how come there are cases of undocumented students?
The reasons are, some of them were not qualified to participate in the program because some of these grantees were billed as public grade 10 completers, but upon review, they are ALS. So those are the reasons. Majority, yes. Majority of the VPBs with findings.
Okay.
Unqualified voucher program beneficiaries.
Unqualified voucher, okay. Well, this is where the efficiency should come in. And I mentioned that earlier. That's why of course, we're contracting. Government is subcontracting to a service provider all of these administrative requirements. And it's important also that we are not paying schools who are giving us unqualified beneficiaries, more so ghost beneficiaries. It's hard to get refunds, definitely, from all angles, whether you're in government or in private sector. Once you issued the check, the likelihood of getting a refund is very, very difficult. That's why this system should be looked at again, no? Attorney Tara. I know the intention of paying immediately so that our schools will be repaid, but we need to come up with a system, a balanced system where schools will be paid immediately, but students will be validated immediately as well. Because we're detecting, right, from based on our information, we're detecting double names, we're detecting probably non-existent beneficiaries or probably, and also unqualified beneficiaries. So it's a balancing act. I know that the schools need to operate as well, and there are a lot of legitimate schools. There are also a lot of honest schools, probably more, and we need to pay them immediately so they can operate. But there are also schools that are, I don't know if they're cutting corners or I'm not really sure. Based on your investigation, is there a deliberate attempt to submit fraudulent documents? Because in the COA report, they also recommended to conduct further investigation. Tama ba, COA? No? So that means we have to go to the, in short, what they want us to go to the bottom of this issue. Is there a willful attempt to submit fraudulent documents and fraudulent beneficiaries?
Yep.
Yeah, no, conduct further investigation on the lapses. So meaning go deeper into this. No? Based on your observation, meron ba?
We've received
Or honest lang na mali yung document na sinuyo?
there-
Yung 316, mali lang talaga yung sinubmit
Mayor-
nilang document.
we've received anecdotal reports coming from the field that there are schools that are trying to game the voucher program. But
I've
these are
also received that
anecdotal.
reports also.
What with regards to whether the school is kung sa Java or hindi, no, I think for some schools that have less than 10 or 1 out of 100 VPBs, I think this may be a mistake, an honest mistake from the school. But when the numbers reached hundreds, this is really a significant issue.
Seeing a
on the
trend,
school again.
and this I got this feedback from my, in Valenzuela, our private schools are organized, no? So I get feedback from them. I see a trend that some entrepreneur or very enterprising people will put up a school, get as many vouchers as possible, no? Because the vouchers, in effect, is a guaranteed income for them. No? So get as many as vouchers as possible by attracting as many students as possible. No? And in that process of attracting students, the students might be legitimate or might not be legitimate. Ang important is I get the voucher because that's income. No? And of course, you subtract expenses, you get some profit out of it. That's fine. No? But the problem is, like you said, they're gaming the system. Because in the process of attracting students, basta padamihan na lang, volume eh. And sabi nga ni Sister Bernardo, there's no quality element here. It's a volume game. Padamihan ito, padamihan ng padamihan. No? And every year, there's a, let's show the graph for the voucher. Every year, the voucher allocation is also increasing. No? It's also increasing. Where's the... So anyways, so they're fixated in getting as many students as in as possible and fixated in getting as many vouchers as possible, regardless of the quality. Wala na silang ano kung quality. No? So that's why I also I support the here the voucher. That's why I also support the recommendation of the COA to go deeper into this problem. Let's find out, are there schools gaming the system? Are there schools deliberately submitting fraudulent documents? Are there schools deliberately getting or defrauding government? Let's investigate this further. I know that we need to balance also the process, no? Because there are also maraming honest schools, and baka in the reform that we are going to make, we might penalize the honest schools, no? Here, no? So on the average, before the voucher system gets approximately about 15 to 20 billion pesos. Now we're getting 39 billion in 2023, 26. So it's slowly going up, no? But because of that voucher, because the allocation is going up, some schools are seeing opportunity to secure as many vouchers as possible.
Recording in
What I've
progress.
noticed is instead of becoming a quality objective, it's now becoming a volume objective. Padamihan tayo ng padamihan, which is not the intention of the voucher program. Attorney Tara, you want to
Yes, I want
weigh
to
in on
say-
that?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Actually, that's right po. When we were created, the gas were created, we included the function of validating through the LIS. That's why po, sir, wala na po tayong double na nakikita na billings because validate it with the LIS. You are right po, medyo nung nag-regulate din po tayo nung ganon, marami pong nagreklamo na private schools because they were not paid right away because it's a new process actually, Senator. So that's why it took a while for the GAS to validate it with the billing statements with the LIS. That's why private schools were also complaining about the slow payment kasi meron talagang significant din na mga around delay, no, mga weeks of delay also on our part, but we had to do that because this is during the course of that validation, actually, Mr. Chair, may nakita po kami and we are actually currently investigating it. So I cannot provide any further basta kung meron man po, Senator, we will provide you with it. It's already with our legal division. So may nakita na po tayo doon just by validating. Hindi pa po kami bumababa like PAYAC because PAYAC also does that monitoring. But just the mere validation of their billing statements with our LIS, meron na po kaming nakita and we are investigating that. Yung volume game, nakita din po namin yan sa GAS. We are also checking all other schools na medyo lumaki, tumaas yung kanyang beneficiaries. Pag tumataas na po yan ng around 500 to 1,000, we are double checking actually, Mr. Chair, that even if they were paid previously, we will be investigating them as well. So, yun po, dun po tayo ngayon, Senator.
I want to compel you to reveal the details of your investigation. I know it's ongoing, but I strongly suggest to PAYAC and DepEd, and in line with the COA report, to go deeper into this. I know there are many schools that are participating in this voucher program, but try to test 1, 2, maybe 10 schools. And then later on in a executive session, we can talk about it. No? But my point of the matter here is I don't want to fund the voucher program if we are seeing perverse incentive to come up with volume instead of quality. Again, I support the voucher program. In fact, records will show that we keep on pushing to increase the allocation. But if we are seeing a perverse incentive for schools to just get more students because they are seeing, and lumalaki, we're talking about 26 billion, then I don't want to continue funding that anymore. We will just reduce it to the students that are qualified and schools that are honest and are operating legitimately. But through an executive session, we'll discuss that. But I strongly encourage you to go deeper into this issue and investigate cases of defrauding or cases of submitting fraudulent documents.
I am hopeful, Mr. Chair, that within this year we can have a case filed in court for this specific private school, Mr. Chair. And the DepEd is really on it po when it comes to the investigation and digging deeper on the fraudulent practices of schools. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that. Anyone who wants to comment on the voucher program, I'll leave that topic already. But anyone who wants to comment, hearing none, I want to finish off with another program in GASPE, which is the teacher salary subsidy. And can we get some updates from DepEd on that part of GASPE? And I know COA also made some comments on that. So where are we in terms of the teacher salary subsidy? How many teachers are benefiting from that? And what is the measure of success of that program? And I know that a lot of schools are also requesting for this program. So just give us some overview on this, on the TSS.
Just an overview of TSS. Mr. Chair. The TSS is currently at a subsidy of 18,000, and if the teacher was able to complete the service for 10 months, then they are able to, he or she is able to get the full 18,000 subsidy. However, if the teacher was not able to complete 10 months of teaching, we give prorated po yan, 1,500 per month of service. And then, as of now, for the physical accomplishments of the TSS, our data shows here that in 2012, we had around 20,000 beneficiaries, but right now, in 2022 to 2023, we already have around 49,000. For 2023-2024, we are still completing our data, Mr. Chair, since we are still ongoing po yung payment natin for TSS because it's given usually at the end of the school year. So there has been a clamor from the private schools to increase the 18,000 subsidy to 24,000 pesos, but we still have to decide. We still have to raise this matter to the State Assistance Council. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Well, obviously, this is meant to somehow augment the salaries of our teachers, no? Because to minimize the difference between our public school teachers and the private school teachers. But for the record, Attorney Tara, what is the objective? Is this just purely minimizing the difference? What's the objective of the TSS? And how do you also select the schools or the teachers who will qualify to this program?
Well, one of the objective really, sir, the main objective is really to help subsidize the salaries of the teachers. Perhaps also by then we can increase the amount of salary that is already provided by the private school, thus also mitigating the migration of the private school teachers to public schools, because that is also one of the concerns of the private schools. And in choosing the teachers who are TSS beneficiaries, we have the following conditions. It should the teacher should be a licensed teacher, and then is a full-time employee in the junior high school, and should be teaching a subject in DepEd curriculum for junior high school at least 180 minutes a week. So yun po yung mga conditions natin, Mr. Chair.
Is there a merit-based criteria in the selection of our teachers? Like, for example, I'm just thinking loosely, no? If a teacher has maybe a higher
More.
degree attainment or longer service, or is there a merit-based system in terms of the selection of our teachers?
We don't have, Mr. Chair. Actually, it's just a valid PRC for teachers.
And they apply to PAYAC or to DepEd?
The schools provide us with the documents of the teachers, providing us with all of these documents for their conditions to qualify. And then they submit to PAYAC, and then PAYAC also endorses us for the billing.
And the selection of the school, the selection of the teachers is on a per school basis or individual teachers?
Per school po na basis.
And then we give the subsidy to that entire school, the
yes.
teachers of that entire school. So for example, they have 100 teachers, all 100 teachers will get the subsidy.
Only if they are also participating in the ESC.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for example, I'm a school participating ESC. I want to apply for to the TSS.
Yes,
All of
and
my teachers will get the TSS.
not necessarily, just those who are also teaching ESC grantees.
Okay.
Mr.
All right.
Chair.
Okay. All right. And what is the ultimate objective? It's just purely reducing the difference?
Yes, Mr. Chair, and also and effectively also mitigating the migration of private school teachers to public school.
How many private school teachers do we have right now?
For a while, Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
our
I
planning
think
is
it's about
checking.
263, tama ba? Out of 2021? If it's 263 and then we're already giving close to 50,000, so we still need to fund 210,000? Ilan? Just the teachers. How many teachers do we have in the private school? I don't know if Cocopeya has that number.
Okay. Double checking lang po si Sir Ariel, sir, to give
Yeah,
us the.
Okay, let's take this 263 as the number first, based on our research. And then we're already, 50,000 has already been, we have 50,000 beneficiaries already. So we're still missing close to 213,000. So if the objective is to mitigate the migration by reducing the difference, then the objective is to give everyone. Tama ba yan? Is that the objective?
For the TSS, Mr. Chair, this is only available for ESC diba, participating schools.
Participating schools and also teachers teaching in junior high school. Correct?
Yes.
Junior high school lang. Okay. What's the reason for that? Why is it not all teachers? Kasi that's why I'm trying, in the COA report kasi nakasulat dito, lack of proper program information or goals and objectives on TSS. That means, even me, what is the objective of the TSS? What is our end goal? That's what I want to understand.
Correct po. Mr. Chair, it's because the previous law, the RA 8545, actually provides that it will only provide TSS for those teachers who are teaching ESC. So when we had RA, the one that extended, no, 10533, it did not mention anything. So that's why ano lang po, sa student lang po tayo. We did not extend that to the teachers.
All right. But do you think we should expand it? Because we're now amending IGASPE.
Yeah. There's still a clamor of the private schools to extend it also to the junior high school. So in the senior high school,
Senior high
sorry,
school, okay.
thank you.
Or not
You're
only
listening.
senior high school, but the entire
That's right.
basic education.
That's
Kasi
right.
That's why I agree with the COA. The objective should be very clear so that it will prompt us, in the legislature to respond also. If the objective is to equalize as much as possible, which I agree, because that's a clamor of our private school teachers that the difference between the public school and the private school entry-level teachers is already quite significant. So in order to prevent migration, which I agree, migration creates a lot of problems in terms of the operation of our private schools. It's very difficult to train. It's very expensive to train. It's very difficult to train. It takes time to train. So to prevent them from transferring, we reduce the difference by the TSS. But how much do we need? And how many teachers do we need to target? And how much is the reasonable amount so that migration will not happen? So those are the things that we need to analyze. so again, I am suggesting to both PAYAC and NEPED to look at this program, no, this program holistically, and look at our objective. And also, I would suggest some merit-based component, no, because some teachers, they work hard, no, some teachers, they continue their studies, they perform more than up to par. So I think we should also include that type of criteria in the awarding of the TSS, so that we motivate teachers, and we encourage good performance from our private school teachers. So, but I do agree that part of the objective is to minimize that migration. But look at this program holistically, make the objectives more pronounced, and we'll on a later date just submit to us some of your concepts on how to make TSS more efficient and productive. No?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The substitute bill in the lower house is also expanding it from the junior high school to K to 12 teachers. And also with this is noted po, Mr. Chair, the merit-based component. We will also tap the PIDs to do a study on how much should we really be giving to the teachers in the private schools. Okay, thank you po.
Attorney Arap, go ahead.
Yeah, yes, sir. Sir, just to add to what Attorney Tara said. So based on the law, the TSS is paid only to ESC participating. So yun po ang. But if we are to really expand the objective, which is to close the gap of salaries between the public and private, and not necessarily just for those who are participating, maybe that can be looked into. And we presented, sir, from EDCOM, the average difference in the salaries of private and public school teachers. The average is 66%. Napakalaki po. No? Merong as high as 226%, for example, in Region 10, and as low as 15% in NCR. Sir, another reason for this is, I think, if you look at the policy environment affecting salaries of teachers in the public and private, kasi po yung sa private schools, like all salaries, these are regionalized eh. So you can have very low salaries in some of the regions compared to NCR. And you compare this to salaries in the public schools, more or less pareho po yan across the board. Like a teacher 1 in DepEd in NCR has the same teacher 1 salary for the ones in Region 10. So, and regionalized sa private po eh. No? So, may mga regions as low as 13,000 no? na ang salary, and they compete with the teacher 1 in DepEd na 23,000. So, andun po kaagad yung gap. So, I think we should also look at that in analyzing how much the salary subsidy should be. But, sir, maybe we can start muna dun sa participating baka mas realistic.
What is the logic why the law only limited it to ESC participating school? What's the logic behind that?
Sir, I think parang it's a form of kasi it contracts out the private sector in teaching the IELTS students. So parang government contracts it out to the school. So as a form of incentive na rin to the teachers who are also teaching students from the public schools. Kaya po binigay yung TSS. The objective then was not really to, kasi with the amounts, napakaliit po na kung let's say 18,000, i-divided in 12 months, very insignificant Hindi talaga pa rin siya main. Ibig sabihin, kung merong available slot sa DepEd, yung tumatanggap ng TSS, lilipat pa rin po yun kung makakalipat siya. The amount is really not that, I think yun po yung naging purpose before, just to incentivize schools who participate in the program. And because the ESC grant is very low also, it doesn't cover salaries of teachers. Opo.
Thank you. Thank you for
sir.
that. So we'll request from DepEd holistic analysis and study on the TSS program to take into consideration the other grade levels, a merit-based criteria, and a clear objective on what government wants to do with TSS. The common feedback that I get from teachers and also from education expert, it was really meant to equalize the difference. But is that really just the sole objective, or can we make it more efficient or make it more productive for the education system? So let's look at that as well. Another program saw in my notes is the INSET program, and I believe that the government allocates approximately 100 million for the INSET program. Can we get some update on that? And this is purely implemented by PAYAC, no? Before we call on PAYAC, let me recognize Sister Bernardo.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I suggest that when DepEd or PAYA creates the criteria, to please include a kind of accountability on the part of the teacher that you are receiving this kind of subsidy. So what is expected of you? Because if we are to really consider producing quality graduates, then we need to look at faculty accountability also. So, Your Honor, may I recommend that that be included in the guidelines? Something like, you give me something, a subsidy. So, what do you expect of me in terms of my performance, in terms of my accountability? So, the subsidy is not something that is given freely to anybody and to the general population of the faculty. I'm more of coming up with quality graduates. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, and I believe Attorney Tara is taking note of that recommendation. So we go to INSET. We want to get some updates on INSET. So explain to us first what is the objective of the program. What is the program? What is the objective? And I believe that government gives about 100 million a year for this program. So just describe to us what is the benefit of this program to the education sector.
In-service training is for teachers that are teaching in the GASPE programs, for schools that are participating in the GASPE programs. This was also, the INSET is also included in RA 8545, in-service training for teachers. With regard to the data on the number of teachers that have participated in the in-service training, I don't have it right now. But we can submit to the committee a report on the performance of the in-service training.
These are for private school teachers, obviously, no, not public school. So there are existing private school teachers, and they are being trained on what aspects?
I'll just try to recall kung ano yung ano, but I'm not kasi part of the program. That's the reason why I cannot really
on
present
pedagogy,
it right now.
on
yes, it's
on
pedagogy, and there is also on classroom management, no, leadership also, no. So those are the subject areas that are being trained, that the teachers are being trained.
And how many teachers a year are we training?
The data, I don't have it right now,
Okay.
but we can provide you with a
Alright.
comprehensive report on the in-service training.
Do you know the selection of our teachers?
The selection actually-
is it open to the public, first come, first serve? How is this?
It's open to the public for as long as they're private teachers, no, teaching in an ESC or voucher program participating schools. So it's open to them. So wala naman, as far as we know, wala po naman na to turn away na nagre-register for the program.
And then if I'm a private school teacher, how do I apply? Through online?
It's the
Through my school or through online?
It's the school that registers the teacher.
Okay.
Apo.
All right. And how much do we allocate per teacher? Do we know? And that 100 million, I'm sure the 100 million is probably just sufficient, no? But how much cost per teacher do we train?
Sorry, Senator, I don't have the data right now.
But I also understand here in the, I think this is from your website, that you also charge 2,700 registration fee and 700 pesos for online runs. This is the order for- No, So on top of this cost, how much is the cost of training per teacher? Do we have that data?
I know that the registration is supposed to be for their food, for the
Okay.
for the duration of the training, but the materials, the speakers, the training of our trainers are not part of the registration that we ask from them.
Okay. And do they have, let's say, an exam at the end, or, diba, they're trained? So how do we know that they learned? Because this is supposed to be, these are government funds, eh? And I'm looking at this as a system-wide improvement, no? When I say system, you have private and public. So we're training our we're training our public schools teachers through the National Academy for, what's that? Yung, NEAP, National Educators Academy, and now we have INSET for private schools. But what is the end? What is the after the training? Are they being tested? Meron bang meron bang some form of test?
Senator, right now we don't have any evaluation of the
Okay.
teachers, no, on how they perform before and after the in-service training.
Okay, just submit to us a detailed description of the INSET program. No? I saw in your annual report there's some numbers there, but no description on the courses, on what they teach. So just submit to us a detailed information on the INSET program. All right. Yes, sister, go ahead.
Your Honor, this info that I will share might be able to help. In terms of training, because I'm part of the group, no, that would organize the INSET, the teachers are given training depending on the subject that they're handling. So if you're handling English, there's a separate group for English, for science, and so on. And mostly, if you're a classroom teacher, you are given inputs on classroom strategies. How do you manage the students in the classroom? How do you assess the students' learning in your class? And the other category, Your Honor, is given inset for leaders. So that's two separate programs for leaders and for classroom teachers. For leaders, it's usually on managing on school management and leadership, and how do you monitor your teachers. Now, there is actually no known tool that you were asking if at the end of the training, is there a mechanism or a tool that would evaluate in terms of what these participants have learned? But I think what PAYAC is doing is to validate what was learned by the school leader and the classroom teachers when PAYAC would send their accreditors, their certifiers, their monitors, because these accreditors, certifiers, monitor enter the classrooms, they observe classes, and they give reports to PAYAC. And they usually go to the individual schools for classroom observation in teams. So I think that's, right now, I think that's a better way for PAYAC to monitor. So they don't give the assessment of what they have learned at the end of the training, but rather they go to the classroom and find out how these classroom strategies taught to them during the inset are being used in the classrooms of the teachers. Thank you, Your Honor.
Sounds like a very good program. And in fact, I support in-service training, regardless if it's private or public, because I also believe that learning, even though you're a teacher or you're a professional, you have to continuously learn about the new techniques, about the new methodologies, new approaches, and I support this type of program. I just want to understand again, no, the end goal. How many teachers do we plan to train? How many? What type of courses do we want to train, and how often do we train? No? So I want to see a holistic picture of this program, so that if we need to add more funds, then we can. No? I showed earlier that there are funds that we can allocate from some programs to the other, but this sounds like a very important program for the development of the entire education sector. Yeah, sister, go ahead.
With regards to the registration fee that PEA collects on every participants, I think it is based on the fact that if NSET is given for 3 to 5 days, and it is open to all the classroom teachers and school leaders, the budget allocated is definitely not enough. So, in line with that, Your Honor, may I request that this also be considered, be included in the expansion of the subsidy? Thank you.
Definitely. And that's why budgeting is always a tug of war. No? And during the process and deliberation of the budget of DepEd, and Attorney Tar is very familiar with this, it's really, we're trying to really to reallocate from programs that we think are not as effective or productive to programs that will help the system improve. No? So that's why I want to get more information about this program. But thank you, sister, for sharing us the on-the-ground implementation of this INSET program. And we'll just await from PEAC more details about INSET. No? All right. Any more? I've covered the entire gamut of the GASPE program. Would like to ask any of our resource persons if they want to raise anything. I think on the issue of PEAC, no, and we discussed this during the last hearing, one of the contentious issues with PEAC is the bidding. No? And it was corrected by the special provision, no, that was placed in 2000, when is that, Attorney Erap? 16? 19 ba? Thereabouts, no? 2000, I think 2018, 19, thereabouts. I want to ask the legal opinion of COA, if there's a legal expert here, or maybe later on. Will that special provision suffice the issue of not doing or doing away with bidding? Is that a sufficient legal basis so that bidding should not be performed anymore? No? I want to get the opinion of COA, because that special provision is a corrective provision, as we all know. No? But will that, and that made it, in effect, that gave it legal basis for the relationship between DepEd and PEAC. But is that enough to do away with the bidding process?
Mr. Chair, because of the inclusion and the provision in the GAA, we believe that there is no requirement for the bidding. Parang it automatically PEAC is the one to administer the fund because of the inclusion. That's why we really insist that the PEAC, the funds of the PEAC is subject to audit. There's no exception because of that inclusion, sir.
More so because of that GAA,
Yes.
because of that special provision, more so it should be
They-
within the ambit, or more
Yeah.
so, it should be audited by COA.
Yes, sir. They should be treated as a government agency, actually.
Yeah. But is the external audit sufficient already for
No,
COA?
as far as we are concerned, although we still have to look into the results of the audit of the Isla Lipana, we're not sure if it is sufficient already. We don't know what type of audit has been conducted by Isla Lipana. Baka financial audit lang po yun. Unlike sa COA, meron kaming compliance audit, which look into the rules and regulations if being followed. Samantalang sa financial audit po, baka it's just a rendition on the fairness of presentation of the financial statement. So we still have to look into the audit report of the Isla Lipana.
Definitely, ano yan, definitely financial audit yan.
Yeah.
I think only COA
The-
conducts a compliance audit, no?
Yes, sir,
Compliance
that's
to the law.
why
Yeah.
we insist po that we really have to audit the, and in the, if I may, sir, on the program of INSET,
Yes, go ahead.
yeah, I think there is a gap on the on the requirement to submit to the COA the liquidation reports that are really covered, that is covered in COA Circular 94-013, which requires or provides for all the documentary requirements when it comes to liquidation. Parang ang sinasubmit lang, if I'm not mistaken, ang sinasubmit lang is a utilization report instead of the complete documents, which includes the OR, kung saan po napunta yung amount na 104 million. So parang wala pong ganun, but only a utilization report, which is not supported with the proper documents.
Is that being submitted to DepEd, the liquidation report?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So it's periodically submitted, annually it's submitted. I would
Annually.
assume it's periodically
Yes.
submitted, okay.
Annually po.
Then I think the best way to move forward is for those documents to be
To be
submitted to COA.
We will transmit po.
I think for now, for now, no? DepEd is the conduit for COA to look into the documents of PAYAC. Well, there is still ambiguity whether it's government, it's a government instrumentality or a private entity. The committee has yet to rule on that aspect. No? But my direction is, regardless of what type of entity, transparency, efficiency, and cost should be focused on. No? And it should always be favorable, of course, to government and to our constituents. No? So with that in mind, I think the DepEd should perform as a conduit for now, no? In order for COA to continue with its audit and performance evaluation. Yeah, I think that's the best way forward. And also in the COA presentation, since the DepEd Secretary sits as the chairman of both PAYAC and DepEd, then the chairman or the chairperson will have full access to both entities. No? So the chairperson can request for information and documents so that PAYAC can be reviewed properly. No? And based on the website of PAYAC, I can see that they are practicing transparency as much as they can, no? As much as what is required of them. No? So, in fairness to them, I think that's why we get all the information from the website. No? So, with that, any more, ma'am, from COA, any more items that you want to raise? Yeah. And I thank COA for the report. The report is really informative. No?
Sir, since, with all due respect, sir, since you are amending or enhancing the GASPE, may we request that a provision on the law shall include that the whole GASP fund shall be subject to COA rules and auditing and accounting rules and regulations. Hindi lang po yung selected program, but all the funds being given to GASPE. PAYAC, I mean.
We'll take note of that. Thank you, thank you. Any more? But you're right. We're coordinating with our House counterparts, and we support the amendment of e-GASPE, and we'll include all of those refinements in the bill. No? Right. Any more issues or comments? Yes, Attorney Erap.
Sir, just to chime in on the nature of PAYAC, just to contribute to the discussion. I think right now, as it is, PAYAC is a private entity that is being contracted out by government to perform a specific service. Because there are only two ways of creating a government instrumentality or administrative agency in performing either a legislative function or a quasi-judicial function. It's either through a statute in the form of a law or a decree or the Constitution. Wala po lahat doon ang PAYAC. It's created by an EO, and an EO is not a statute. And it's very clear that it maintains that character, that private nature. Also in the GAA, while it is also a law, it also recognizes it doesn't say that PAYAC is created as a government instrumentality. So that's, as it is now, that is a very objective analysis of what PAYAC is. But I think, sir, the strength of PAYAC is also in that ambiguity, if I may. Now, because with that independence, agility, it's able to perform its function. So I think when we review, should we create it under a law, then it will be under all of this bidding process, procurement process. But again, we should look at it from that, yung pong sinabi ninyo, transparency, efficiency, and cost. Because I think that private nature also makes it comply with those standards that you're saying. Because it performs a very specialized function. No other, I think, no, because of the system that it has developed over the years. It's an entire DepEd performing a different function, which is providing subsidy and implementing government programs. Yun po. So that's my analysis as it is now. It's created by an EO, and so therefore it's not really a government instrumentality that performs. Kasi dalawa lang yun. It's either rulemaking, assisting legislature, or executing a quasi-judicial function through the executive. Neither eh. Wala pong ano eh. It is very clear because of the contractual nature, it's being engaged. Very specific lang po yung function eh. So and on that note, it's really a private entity. Pero mabigat yung responsibility niya. It's like an entire administrative agency then. But it is not as of now, sir. Yeah.
When I read the COA report, if you read the COA report, they'll think otherwise, no? And they'll have also legal grounds to justify why it is a government agency. So for me, we're not a court. We're not the Supreme Court to rule on that. We can only rule on our basis of legislation, no? So our approach will be what way is the best and the most efficient way, no? Regardless whether it's a government instrumentality or private, what's the best? And the only way we will know that is to subject it to a bidding procedure, meaning we find out from the market who's the best, no? And then people will submit how much they're willing to accept in order to perform that function. But then again, that's another matter. So for now, because it's an ongoing effort, because if you subject that to bidding, then that's another whole round, no? Since this is an ongoing effort, that's why I suggested to DepEd just to be the bridge between COA and PAYAC since they sit in both agencies or both organizations, no? And for DepEd to assure us that it's the most cost-effective, it's also the most efficient, and it's also transparent, no? Practicing transparency principles. And DepEd, since it's the contracting party, is the appropriate entity to assure us of those, no? And we will request that from DepEd again, no? Later on a later date, Attorney Tar, to submit to us a position paper on PAYAC, no? My principle is always, if the private sector can do it best, then let them do it, no? But we need to assure that there's transparency and also fair process, no? But since wala ngang bidding to, we don't know if there's other entities who can do it better. There's other entities who's cheaper, no? So we don't know, no? But that's a whole new different dimension. What we want now is to make sure that the ongoing relationship between PAYAC and DepEd is of high standards, no? So of high standards. All right? And just submit to us through a position paper. All right? Any more comments from COA? Wala na po. Na-cover na ba natin? I think yung major, na-cover natin yung major. Yeah, ma'am, go ahead. I think we covered the major, no? Maraming COA report. It took me a few days to read it, but I think the major lang. Go ahead,
Thank you,
ma'am.
Mr. Chair, for giving us the opportunity again to attend this second hearing on the basic education. So we'd like to, just to clarify also, regarding what the Attorney Erap said before, on the status of PAYAC, yeah, we consider whether it's a private or government instrumentality. What we would like to clarify, if just in case PAYAC will be considered as private, I think they should have to follow the nature of being a private entity. So if being a private entity, they should register under the Security Exchange Commission, and the other one, they have to register in a Bureau, BIR, for some tax requirement from the government. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, thank you. Do you want to respond to that or you'll leave it?
Yeah, that's also something na matagal na rin pinag-uusapan. But it's also peculiar because it's created, its establishment is through an executive order. Eh. It's not, but it's a private, pero kasi establishment through SEC if it's incorporation. But this time it's an EO that established it already. It's giving it juridical personality. So.
Register in the SEC even though it's not juridical.
Right.
Just register.
Yes,
It's
yes.
not registered, I believe. No?
It's not. It's
Oo.
to, but the purpose for registering is to give it juridical personality. So, parang ano lang yon, parang redundancy on its part.
Well,
because it's already created by an EO. Tapos ano yun, sir, eh? Ex officio, like yung Secretary of Education. So, so you change its composition every time there's a change of ano. Ex officio po yung iba doon, like yung members of associations of the private schools, PACU, CAP, these are ex officio po eh. At saka yung secretary is the chairman. Yeah, sir, tama po yun. That has been in the discussion for a long time also. Pero yung bidding po yung pinaka-importante na, di ba po, kung private yun, the PhilJEF, tapos bidding. But since the GAA already provides it,
the special provision can be removed also. Eh.
yes,
No,
sir.
it's
Opo,
not,
opo.
special. I've done budgeting for a long time. They come and go. Eh. They
Yes,
come
sir.
and go.
Yes, sir.
Depending kung who is your, who's the senator or who's the congressman lobbying for it. No, so it's in a sense it's not a stable way
Yes, sir.
of
I
addressing this concern.
In addition, Mr. Chair, we would like to ask also the assistance of DepEd, since our previous director of the Cluster 5, with the information from former Secretary Briones, they have submitted to the Office of the President regarding the the juridical identity of PAYAC, but until now, there's no response received from our auditor. What is the stand of the Office of the President regarding the personality of PAYAC?
Actually wanted to ask DepEd their opinion on this, but let's reduce this to a position paper instead. No, I don't want to put Attorney Tara on the spot right now. I want her to consult their legal team, especially that now there's a new leadership. There's the Vice President, no less than our Vice President is now the new DepEd head. So we'll give Attorney Tara some time to consult with the Vice President as well as with their legal team on this matter and reduce it to a position paper. No? I don't want her to be put on the spot right now. I know this is very contentious. I've read the materials, so we'll give her time to consult with the Vice President. Right? Okay, so with that, I would like to, again, thank everyone for attending this second hearing. Maraming salamat. Again, I commend COA for coming up with a very detailed audit and performance evaluation. It really gave us a lot of insights on how GASPE is being implemented. And again, our direction is to make sure that the funds allocated to GASPE is, first of all, channeled to the right beneficiaries, which are our poor learners, address a problem, which is the congestion, and of course, making sure that efficiency is being practiced in the implementation of GASPE. Of course, you have INSET, you have the TSS. Those are things that we need to make sure that it's efficiently being implemented. No? So with that, we'll suspend first the hearing now. We might have another hearing subject to the submissions that you will be giving us. But once again, thank you very much for your participation. This hearing is hereby suspended. Thank you.